What's up Nakama, welcome to the part 2, of What If Luffy Had Coby Join His Crew, Chapter 3. A puddle of sweat sunk into the floorboards of the Mary's weight room, a section of the storage hull that had been sectioned off with a new wall and furnished with a plethora of weights. Over that puddle was a bench-pressing bench currently being used by a certain Rosette. Sweat dripped from Coby's skin as he pushed another rep out of his burning arms, a whole 130 pounds threatening to crush him should he fail. Zoro stood over him, ready to move should something go wrong, but Coby could not see him through his closed eyes. D20. S7. The boy panted, his arms visibly shaking under the unfamiliar strain of training. D20. 8. 20. N.9. Come on, shrimp, Zoro muttered. You can do it. One more for the round. Grrr, his student growled, forcing his arms to move with a memory of the pirates they fought back on Gecko Island. The weights rose slowly, rattling with Coby's shaking arms as they reached the zenith. 30. Coby gasped as his arms gave out, the weights falling into the control of gravity. Zoro moved quickly, catching the bar with one hand as his student's arms flopped uselessly. He tossed the bar aside carefully before grabbing Coby by the scruff of the neck, hoisting the boy like one would a kitten and leaning him against the wall. Stand up when you're out of breath, Zoro told him. It's better for your lungs. Right. Zoro-sensei, Coby continued to pant, now pressing his back into the wall. The ship shook with the boom of a cannon, not the first to have come in the past few minutes from the deck above. Do you think Usopp is done yet? Yeah, I'd say so. There was a crash after that last shot. Coby blinked as the pain in his arms fell from a sharp spike to a dull ache, coming face to face with Zoro now lifting twice what Coby had been struggling with. The gap between them had always been obvious, but Zoro's actions also showed that his goal was attainable. Coby could become as strong as Zoro. He could. But he needed to rest first. Coby's eyes closed for only a moment to his concept of time, but the next thing he knew, there was a horrible crash from somewhere above. Come out, you filthy pirates. A voice shouted from the deck. I'll teach you to try to kill my partner. Stop wrecking our ship. Luffy yelled as Coby painfully pushed himself to his feet, Zoro setting aside the weights he was using. The Rosette fell in behind his teacher as they set themselves en route to the deck. Usopp jumped out of a room further down the hallway, bursting through the door to yell, "Don't break the Mary, Luffy. What the hell is going on out here?" Zoro demanded as he and Coby stepped into the sunlight, Coby poking his head out from behind the swordsman. The green-haired man looked down to see the intruder, spread eagle on the deck. The man was of average height and well-tanned with short black hair and a kanji tattooed on his left cheek. He wore off-white khakis, dull green boots, and a purple shirt under a blue jacket. An average but well-made sword was held in his right hand and sunglasses sat perched on his nose. "What the hell are you doing here, Johnny?" Zoro asked. The man started at the sound of his name. There was a moment of hesitation during which he took in the form of the green-haired swordsman. "Big bro Zoro?" Johnny questioned, pushing himself into a sitting position. "What are you doing here? Why are you on a pirate ship?" He noticed Coby. "Who's the runt?" "Relax, I'll explain later." "And the shrimp here is Coby, my student." "Where's Yosaku?" He's..." Johnny started crying, and rushed to the side of the ship where another, smaller boat was hooked to the Going Merry. Zoro and Coby followed at a slower rate. On the boat was a man whose skin was a sickly, unhealthy white. He had a shaved head covered with a red helmet and he was dressed in a black shirt under a green trench coat. The man also wore yellow and red plaid shorts and brown boots. A bloody bandage was wrapped around his waist and his head was bleeding slowly, a puddle already pooling below him. This was Yosaku, Johnny's bounty hunting partner. "He looks bad," Coby fretted, Luffy and Usopp gaping at his sides. "We were just minding our own business," Johnny explained, a tad hysterical. "Yosaku has been getting sick lately and old injuries started opening again for no reason. He collapsed last night and hasn't gotten any better since. Coby, Usopp, and Luffy jumped down, the three working together to lift Yosaku gently onto the Mary's deck. Attracted by the hubbub on the deck, Nami stepped out of the personal cabin she's claimed for mob-making. "Give it to me straight, big bro," Johnny cried as he fell to his knees beside his friend. "Is Yosaku gonna die?" "Now don't think that," Zoro tried to reason. Nami made herself known to the rest of the group, walking up to and examining the injured man. "You're all a bunch of morons," she announced. "You three." She pointed at the youngest of the crew. "We've got a bunch of limes in the storage room. Bring some up. You. Johnny, right? Your partner has scurvy." "Scurvy?" Johnny blinked. "Will he be okay, big sis?" "1. He hasn't been eating right. So he doesn't have enough vitamin C in his bloodstream and should be fine if we get fruit into him soon enough. 2. Don't call me sis. We're back, Nami," Luffy announced, himself and Usopp emerging from the storage room. Coby followed them slowly, limes falling from the basket in his hands on account of his shaking arms. Under Nami's guidance, Usopp and Luffy began squeezing juice from the limes into Yosaku's mouth. "How long will this take?" Coby asked as he finally arrived. "Scurvy could be a death sentence on a ship. I've had it before and was lucky to survive." Yosaku below him sprung to his feet, startling a scream out of Coby and Usopp, both of whom jumped behind Luffy. "Yosaku!" Johnny yelled. "Johnny!" Yosaku answered, the men locking arms. The two cheered, dancing together, "Hooray, hooray! You can't be that healthy instantly!" Nami yelled, flabbergasted. "That's not how biology works." "Allow us to introduce ourselves," Johnny said, either ignoring or not hearing the orange-haired navigator. They bowed. "I'm Johnny." "And I'm Yosaku," his partner added, also bowing before they locked arms around each other's shoulders. "And together, we are the best bounty hunting duo in the universe. Big bro Zoro used to be one of us, too," Johnny continued after their announcement, him and Yosaku disentangling from each other. Johnny reached out, clasping hands with Zoro in an air of familiarity, both smiling. "Never thought we'd find you on a pirate ship, though." Yosaku went to join the brotherly showing, only to collapse again. "Mr. Yosaku!" Coby yelled, scrambling to catch the sickly man. He was only fast enough in his post-workout state to keep Yosaku's head from bouncing off the deck. "Quick, take him inside," Luffy ordered, grabbing the fallen man's legs. Coby and Usopp each took an arm, the three shuffling toward the doctor's chambers, not that they had a doctor yet, awkwardly as Johnny watched with worry. "Come on," Nami urged, leading Zoro and Johnny toward the kitchen. "So, you picked up a student?" Johnny asked in wonder as the trio stepped into the dining room, the man also taking in the view of the beautiful ship. It wasn't exactly special, but it was better than anything he and Yosaku had sailed before. Coby, Usopp, and Luffy joined them before Zoro could answer, each grabbing a chair around the table. "Is Yosaku okay?" "He's resting, right now," Coby explained. "Scurvy can be bad, but it's quickly reversed with enough fruit. I'm sure he'll be fine." "Thank you." Johnny turned back to Zoro as Nami pulled out what he assumed was the ship's logbook. "You'd always said you'd never take on a student." "It's a long story," Zoro waved off. "Shrimp, you've rested enough. Drop and give me 30. But do it." "Yes, sensei." Coby dropped to the floor. "Deeper, Shrimp. They won't help you if you only go halfway." "Yes, Zoro-sensei," Coby grunted as Nami finished writing in the ship's logbook. She'd taken it upon herself to do so since Luffy's handwriting was terrible and he wouldn't take the time to do it anyway. "And let that be a lesson, Johnny," she muttered, shutting the book. "You and Yosaku need proper nutrition. I suggest one of you learn how to cook. That's something we need," Luffy shouted, dropping a fist into his open hand. "We need a cook. Right after we get a musician," We don't need a musician," Zoro scolded, smacking Luffy in the back of the head. Predictably, Luffy didn't show any outward reaction to the blow. "A cook, huh?" Johnny chuckled. "In that case, I know the perfect place. It's a little hard to track down since it moves around on the sea, but it's said to be one of the best restaurants in the world. It's supposed to be near the Grand Line right now, and there have also been rumors that a certain hawk-eyed man is in the general area." Zoro's eyes widened. "Which way?" he demanded. "I'm the navigator here," Nami interrupted. "One of the best restaurants in the world? The only one I've heard about in the East Blue that moves is called the Barity, right?" "That's it," Johnny nodded. "Yozako and I have been there a few times and it's never disappointed. Last we heard it was anchored to the north of here." The Going Merry sailed north throughout the night, docking at an atoll for a few hours to give the crew time to rest and recuperate as well as check on Yozaku. The limes had begun their work, his skin looking healthier and his breathing easier, but he would need another few days at least until he was back into fighting shape, but he was able to get up and move like normal. The sky was clear and the waves were calm when Usopp finally caught sight of the Barity, a large vessel with a fish motif and a coat of light blue paint. Its base was mostly circular and several stories tall, a small, patio-like walkway ringing the walls of the ship for people to reach the entrance. Dozens of smaller ships were docked around it, ropes tied to the floating restaurant. "It's so big," Luffy gasped, jumping in excitement. "That's so cool. Luffy?" Usopp began, turning the heads of the captain and the rest of the crew to a white and blue ship a little bigger than the Mary pulling up on their starboard side. There was a man on the deck that was not taking part in the work of sailing like the rest of the crew. He was tall with tan skin and pink hair, and was dressed in a yellow suit. His knuckles were covered in an iron plating that looked like screws and he had a scar on his right cheek. His eyes drifted to the skull and crossbones flag the crew had painted yesterday before meeting Johnny and Yozaku. "I am Marine Lieutenant Iron Fist Fullbody," the man yelled from the marine ship as both ships came to a stop. "But you can just call me sir. Who is the captain of your vessel? I don't recognize your flag." Coby felt his eye twitch as the image of another Marine he'd met overlaid itself on Fullbody, the tone of his voice and the arrogance therein reminding him of Morgan, that Fullbody, a mere lieutenant, could treat anyone with such disrespect without previous interaction did not bode well for his character. Was he also corrupt? How often does one come across two different, unrelated, corrupt Marines in 1 week? "I am," Luffy announced, stepping forward to answer the question. "I'm Luffy." "And I'm Usopp," the sniper piped up. "We just painted our flag yesterday," Luffy continued. "And I'm the one that painted it." "Shut up, Usopp," Zoro ordered, grabbing the long-nosed teen by the neck. The lieutenant scanned the boat, searching for familiar faces, until he saw Johnny and Yozako trying to hide behind a door. "Aren't you two the bounty hunter duo that goes around catching small fry?" "Small fry?" Johnny yelled, clearly insulted. "Small fry? We've taken down pirates like Darkheart's Dolov and the Centurion Quo Vadis. Do you call these people small fry?" He threw a stack of wanted posters into the air, some of them like the poster of Darkheart and the Centurion having red X's on the photos. Coby picked out a couple other recognizable names from the posters, Nami grabbing one and stuffing it within her clothing in the corner of his vision. He hadn't gotten a good look, but there was only one pirate in the East Blue with blue skin. It was a poster for the infamous fishman, Sawtooth Arlong. Fullbody didn't seem to care. "They're an eyesore," the Marine told his men as he and his lovely date, a blonde woman, disembarked. "Sink them." "Yes sir." "They're pointing a cannon at us," Coby warned. "Why are they pointing a cannon at us?" "I got this," Luffy announced as the cannon fired. He stretched his arms out to grab the mast and the figurehead. Gum gum slingshot. The cannonball slammed into him, stretching out his arms and legs, much to the shock of the bounty hunters and the Marines watching. Coby noticed a change in Luffy's expression. leading him to see his captain's fingers slipping on the figurehead. With a cry, the Rosette charged toward the bow, grabbing Luffy's hand and planting his feet as Luffy lost his grip. Luffy snapped back to his normal size, the cannonball smashing into the mast of the marine ship. Sailors screamed as the whole thing dipped, driving a hole through their deck and into the hull below as it fell. Shishishi, Luffy laughed as Johnny and Yosaku stared at him. That was fun. Thanks, Coby. And no problem, Captain, Coby answered, only now realizing the scale of what he'd just done. Across the water, the Marines scrambled to keep their ship from capsizing. Maybe we should move the Mary so they don't try to shoot us again? Good idea. Everyone, let's move to the other side. Under Luffy's minimal guidance, the ship sailed to the opposite end of the restaurant and docked between two larger ships before the crew and passengers disembarked. The Marines were still in a panic as the pirates and bounty hunters entered the establishment. The inside was the same color as the outside, the soft blue of the walls casting a calming aura that meshed well with the smooth jazz that flowed from hidden speakers. Circular tables were set around the room, each covered with a white tablecloth. Coby waited for a host to seat them, but Luffy and Zoro simply walked to an empty table and sat down. No one stopped them, causing Coby, Usopp, and Nami to join them. Yosaku and Johnny took a separate table. Good afternoon, a young man with blonde hair and a nice suit said, walking over to their table. He had a curly eyebrow over his visible right eye, the left one covered by his hair, and a lit cigarette in his mouth. He seemed distracted. My name is Sanji and I'm the sous chef, but we're short-staffed at the moment. Can I take your order? Meat. Luffy shouted, predictably, without even consulting the menu. The rest of the crew followed suit until the man reached Nami, the woman having consulted the menu more thoroughly. My darling goddess. The chef cried, falling to one knee and pulling out a red rose from God knows where. For a beauty like yourself, I would displace the heavens. What request may I answer for you this day? Well, Nami began, unaware of Luffy's gaze leveled on her and Sanji. I'm considering the plit mandarin, but it's just so expensive, you know? Can you do anything about that, Sanji-kun? The chef looked like someone shot him, in the heart, equal parts scandalized that the menu dared to concern the woman before him and delighted that he could be of service. Of course, mademoiselle. No gentleman like myself would even consider charging you. Everything here is free for you, compliments of my undying love. Suck up, Zoro snickered, earning a kick to the back of the head. Sanji retreated before the swordsman could retaliate, moving on to another table on the other side of the room. I don't like him, Zoro grumbled. He's just our waiter, Usopp pointed out. Sous chef, Coby corrected. Whatever. Point is, it's not like he's the one that's going to join us. Don't fuck with me. The yell came from across the room, the Marine from before now standing. He had a fist held in front of Sanji's face, a bowl of soup shattered at their feet. The Marine punched his table, shattering it as well. You think you can get away with embarrassing Marine Lieutenant Iron Fistful buddy, you damn no-name waiter? That soup took all night to make, Sanji muttered, falling to one knee to lament the wasted food. What was that? Sanji didn't answer verbally. He shot to his feet, one leg coming up into a split to kick the Marine in the chin. His date gasped and backed away as Sanji proceeded to turn full Bobby into a bloody mess, grabbing the man by the neck and lifting him into the air. Sanji, you asshole. A cook with giant arms raged. That man is a Marine lieutenant. He disrespected the food and he disrespected me, Sanji spat, as if that explained why he had used the Marine as a punching bag. He dropped the man who landed in a crumpled and moaning heap. And for the last time, I'm the sous chef, not a damn waiter. That's not the point here, Sanji. Jerk or not, he's a paying customer. Shut up, Patty. He's an asshole who's not worthy of his beautiful date. Blonde who had come with Full Buddy blushed. As Sanji began arguing with the other chefs, Full Buddy started to crawl away, trying to leave. then behind. He left a trail of blood along the wood floor, nearly reaching the door before it was thrown open by a marine grunt. He was leaning on the door frame, his shoulder covered in blood from a bullet hole. "Lieutenant Fullbody!" he cried, scanning the restaurant before finding his officer on the ground. He seemed confused, but there were more pressing matters than why Fullbody was on his hands and knees and bleeding. "Lieutenant, the prisoner has escaped. He's killed 7 of us already." "Impossible!" Fullbody yelled, pushing himself to his knees. "He was on the verge of starvation when we caught him 3 days ago and we haven't fed him since. He shouldn't have the energy to move. How did this happen?" The Marine began, only for a thin arm to wrap around his neck. Terrified, the grunt was dragged out of the door before a gunshot sounded, followed closely by the wet thump of a body hitting the ground. Replacing the presumably dead Marine in the doorway was a man with a smoking flintlock dressed in gray pants, a green shirt under a gray jacket with red sea serpent designs, and a blue and gray striped headband. The man himself was tan and rail thin with scruffy black hair and a scraggly beard from not shaving while in captivity. He also had bags under his eyes and 2 large bead earrings on each ear. The murderer limped into the establishment, ignoring the sniffling lieutenant, and fell into a seat while throwing one leg onto the table to try to hide his misery. The chef who'd yelled as Sanji walked over with a big and obviously fake smile. "Welcome to the Barity, you damn crook. My name's Patty. What can I get you?" "I don't care," the man growled over the sounds of his empty stomach. "I haven't eaten in a week. You bring me food. May I ask how you're going to pay for this meal?" Jin pulled out the gun he'd used to kill the Marine and pointed it at the chef. "Do you take lead?" Patty wasn't fazed by the obviously loaded weapon. But he did seem to get a mixture of excitement and disappointment from the answer. "So you don't have any money?" The chef brought his 2 huge fists up and slammed them down on the pirate, breaking the chair the man was sitting in. What followed was almost a recreation of Sanji beating up Fullbody, the murderer receiving the horrible treatment this time around. Unknown to either of the fighting men, Sanji had made an exit to the kitchen. Finally, after kicking him while he was down for a good 5 minutes, Patty threw the man over his shoulder and carried him out behind the restaurant. "And stay out," Patty's voice called, leading to many of the patrons cheering. "I've got a good feeling," Luffy smirked, downing the rest of his meal in a second and standing. "Captain, wait!" Coby cried, abandoning his food to chance after the rubberman. "You don't know who that is." Luffy didn't listen, Coby following him up the stairs to the 2nd floor and out onto the deck. Down below, the pirate from before moaned hungrily as Patty walked back inside. "That's not nice," Luffy muttered, preparing to jump over the rail. "Captain, are you crazy?" Coby yelled, grabbing Luffy by the arm. "That's Man-Demon Jin of the Krieg Pirates. He's one of the deadliest men of the East Blue, wanted for 12 million beres. So?" Luffy grinned, grabbing Coby's face and turning it toward the criminal down below. Sanji had walked out of the kitchen with a plate of fried rice and a glass of water and now stood before the emaciated Jin. "You look like shit," Sanji said, setting the plate and glass before the starving pirate. "Here. Eat." "I don't want your charity," Jin spat, turning away from the food he so obviously wanted. The pirate's stomach protested his choice. "The sea is crazy, isn't it?" Sanji sighed, sitting down next to the dangerous man and lighting a cigarette. "It can mean absolute death if you run out of food. I know what it's like to starve because of the sea and I can't stand seeing anyone go through that, so eat. Survive today so you can defend your honor tomorrow." Jin's resolve crumbled and he dove for the food, scarfing it down like he hadn't eaten in days, which he hadn't. "It's so good," he cried happily, tears streaming down his face as he shoveled more and more food into his mouth. "But I can't help boo." He cleared his throat. "I can't help but think you are going to get fired because of me." "Don't worry about it," Sanji replied as Jin finished his food. "This isn't the first time I've done this." "What's your name?" "I'm Sanji." "Jin." Thank you, Sanji. I like you, Luffy stated before Coby could stop him, making their presence known. Sanji and Jin jumped at the interruption. I'm Monkey D. Luffy, and I'm looking for a cook for my pirate crew, and I've decided I want you. Join my crew, Sanji. I'm sorry. Sanji blinked, but I can't leave. I owe the old man too much. So you refuse? Yes. I refuse your refusal, Luffy responded, crossing his arms. That's not how it works. Coby, Sanji, and Jin yelled, sending the latter into a coughing fit. Luffy remained unfazed. Well, I'm not gonna leave until I have you on my crew, the teenage pirate captain declared. You're a pirate, right? Jin asked as he got his coughing under control, getting a nod from the rubber man. Obviously you're just starting if you're looking for a cook. Let me give you some advice. Stay away from the Grand Line. That sea defies logic and is only a death sentence. Well, thanks, Luffy smiled. But I'm going to the Grand Line no matter what you say. I'm after the One Piece and that's where it is. I can't stop you. Jin sighed. It's your death. Here, Jin. Sanji interrupted, untying a small boat. You can take this to leave. Thank you. Eggplant. Get back to work. A large man yelled from somewhere over them. He was a tall, rotund man with a braided blonde mustache, a small beard, and short hair. He was dressed in a regular chef outfit with the exception of his pants being shorts, revealing that his right leg was missing from the knee down and was replaced with a peg leg. His chef hat was so tall that it would have brushed the ceiling if they were inside. I'm sorry, Sanji, Jin apologized. You'll probably get yelled at because of me. In response, the chef picked up the empty dishes and threw them into the ocean. There. No evidence, no problem. Jin balked before falling to the deck. Thank you. Thank you so much. I'll never forget your kindness. Accepting Sanji's charity, Jin climbed into the boat and set a course southeastwardly. As he sailed off into the distance, Sanji, Luffy, and Coby went back inside, the former to work and the latter to join their crew at their table. I found us a cook, Luffy announced as he reached the table. Everyone else now finished with their food. It's that not waiter who served us. He's a real nice guy who won't let any of us go hungry. Great, Zoro grumbled into his beer. All the cooks on this boat, and you pick him? You don't like him? Nami asked. I think he's pretty nice. That's cause he gave you free food, Usopp interjected. Captain, Sanji said he doesn't want to join, Coby reminded. He refused. And I refused his refusal, Luffy nodded. We aren't leaving until Sanji agrees to join us. Damn it, Zoro growled. Maybe I should go beat him into submission so we can just leave. You stupid eggplant. The voice of the head chef shouted as Sanji shot out of the doors to the kitchen, landing on his back hard. Zeph stepped out of doors as they tried to close. Get the hell out of my restaurant. I don't need a shitty chef like you ruining our reputation. Shut up, you old fart. Sanji shouted back. I'm staying here until you drop dead. And my food is just as good as yours, bastard. I can do everything you can. Fat chance, runt. I've still got 100 years before I give out and I haven't taught you everything. Sanji pushed himself to his feet and shoved past Zeph, stomping back into the kitchen. The older blonde glanced at the pirates. Luffy's grin widened. We're gonna be here a while, Usopp sighed. The Straw Hats stayed docked at the Barity for 6 more days, Luffy pestering Sanji to join his crew the whole time. Zoro and Coby used that time to train. The older man would push the younger far past the breaking point each day, but it had noticeable results. By their 3rd day on the Barity, Coby was able to lift 2 Bakken at once and he could use them decently on the 4th. He'd also taken to wearing them strapped across his back in an X shape so there was one handle over each shoulder. Nice weather became prominent in the area, so Zoro had them training outside on the decks. The customers, most of them anyway, enjoyed watching the boy run laps to increase his speed and stamina in the mornings. In the afternoons, Zeph would raise the ship's extra platform from below the sea so Coby and Zoro could spar and give the customers a show, the former with both wooden swords and the latter with only a sheathed wado-ukemanji, sometimes in his mouth, sometimes in his offhand. After dinner, they would go into the dojo on the going merry and lift weights until Coby couldn't move. Zoro would then take him to the men's quarters before going back to training. By the 6th day, Coby had lost most of his extra weight and would probably be able to hold his own in a fight. Zoro smirked at his student through his sword on the afternoon of the 7th day, the young rosette scowling as he tried in vain to overpower the man's block with his own double overhead swing. With little effort, Zoro pushed up and dislodged Coby, causing the boy to stumble backwards and lose his balance as well as his weapons. Almost casually, Zoro strode forward and tapped his sheathed weapon on the boy's neck. Dead. For the 5th time, Coby grumbled, reaching over to grab his bakkin. Hey, look at it this way, Zoro offered, taking his sword out of his mouth. It took me almost 2 minutes to overpower you that time. It's still not enough, Coby whined, securing his wooden weapons on his back. I won't be of any use to Captain Luffy until I'm strong enough to beat anyone who threatens our crew. I can't be a hero until I can stop any asshole who does wrong. At this level, I'm nothing but a reliability. I wouldn't say that, Zoro replied as they stepped into the restaurant. I bet you would be able to take down any of those pirates from Usopp's Island one-on-one at your level, except for the captain. Really? Zoro only smirked in response as they reached what had become their table with the rest of their crew. Sanji danced away with a dopey grin on his face, leaving a giant sundae in front of their only female crew member. Nami shook her head, taking only a single bite from the ice cream before pushing it toward Luffy and Usopp, the former of who swallowed the rest in one gulp. I'm going to go change, Nami announced, standing. Okay. Luffy answered as Zoro and Coby sat down. Johnny and Yosaku are out there. Nami ignored him as she left. So what now? Usopp asked, somewhat sour at not getting any of the ice cream Luffy had snatched from under his long nose. It's getting really boring here. You could train with us, Zoro suggested with an evil smile, Usopp paling at the idea. I think I'll pass, the sniper swallowed. I'm getting close to breaking Sanji, Luffy said. I can feel it. What is that? One of the other customers asked. Her chair scraped against the floor as she stood and pointed out the window. It's Don Krieg, another patron yelled, standing so quickly that his chair toppled. Don Krieg is here. The customers panicked and fled. Looking out the window, a great shape grew closer, a ragged ship tapping the fins of the seafaring restaurant. The panic ended as quickly as it began, leaving the ship empty of everyone but the chefs and the straw hats. Luffy and his crew rose as the rhythmic, uneven thump of boots on wood announced the approach of unsteady people. A moment later, the front door flew open. At the entrance stood Jin once more, this time with a large man slung over his side. Please, the man begged, his voice raspy. Help him. Please. Yeah right. Patty laughed. This is a golden chance. Someone call the Marines right now. No. Jin cried. If it's money you want, we can pay this time. Drew help him. Like we'd help a man like Don Krieg, Carney scoffed. The world would be better off without a man like him and all of his followers. I promise I won't attack the restaurant, the man, who Luffy suspected was Krieg, vowed, pushing off Jin's shoulder to get on his knees and bow. Just give me food. Don Krieg was an older man with short, gray hair, long sideburns, and a square face that was ragged and gaunt, from hunger. His dress involved golden, fur-lined armor with his Jolly Roger on each shoulder covered by a floral t-shirt, the jacket he was using as a cape. Under his chest plate was a gray shirt and dark pants hung on his waist. Bandages were wrapped around his head and various parts of his body. Don, no. Jin cried. This ass uncommon oh ya. Patty laughed. Ha hark. With a sudden jolt, the large chef was thrown to the side. Sanji walked through the space Patty had previously occupied, a plate of food coming to rest in front of the sickly villain. The older man forewent table manners and dug in with his hands, Jin thanking the chef profusely. "What's so special about this guy?" Luffy wondered aloud. "You don't know?" Coby all but yelled. "Don't you know about anyone in the East Blue? Admiral Dog Krieg is a man wanted for 17 million beers for unspeakable acts. He got his start as a pirate by enlisting in the Navy before killing his commander and stealing his ship. Since then, he's used every dirty trick in the book to win, including using marine flags to enter cities before killing everyone there. I though you said his actions were unspeakable," Zoro commented. "Oh," Luffy blinked, glaring at the man finishing his meal. "He's one of those." "Thank you," Krieg whispered, drawing Sanji in to take the empty plate away. When Sanji was close, however, Krieg surged upward, punching the blonde man in the gut. Sanji coughed as he was thrown backward into a table, shattering it. Jin could only watch as his captain struck the man who had saved them both. "Don Krieg!" Jin shouted. "Why do you do that? He saved our lives." Only brought you here because you'd promised not to attack." "Yes," he'd responded. "The food was delicious. Now drop that damn accent like I've always told you to." Yes, Don." Jin could meet no one's eyes, only staring down at the floor in shame. His captain, however, did not have any problems with his own actions, the man eyeing the ship with a growing smirk. "This is a pretty nice ship. I think I'll take it." "Don Krieg," Jin whispered. "Please." Krieg ignored him, leading the tent man to look to Sanji on the floor and the debris of a table. "Sanji, I'm sorry. I didn't mean for this to happen. I have about 100 men on my ship," Krieg continued, ignoring his subordinate. "All are weak with hunger. Feed them and leave, and I'll leave you alive." Sanji shifted, standing and turning away from the attacking pirates. He began walking toward the kitchen, a dribble of blood running down the side of his face. "Sanji?" Patty asked. "Where are you going?" "To the kitchen. I have 100 meals to make." "What?" Every one of the cooks gathered around Sanji, the one named Patty stepping forward and punching the sous chef into the ground without resistance. "I don't care who was right and wrong all those times you fed the scumbags I'd thrown out of here," Patty hissed, "but this time you're just wrong, Sanji." Confirming the other chefs wouldn't let Sanji into the kitchen, Patty walked over to one wall that he slid open to reveal a hidden compartment. Out of it, he pulled a lobster-shaped cannon. "I hope you saved room for dessert, Don Krieg, cause here's the meatball of doom." He shot a cannonball at Krieg, who took the shot head-on, filling the surrounding air with smoke. As it started to clear, the first thing many noticed were the ripped and broken hinges on the doorframe. "Oops. Looks like I broke the doors." The smoke cleared as the cooks laughed, revealing Krieg without a scratch. "Was that supposed to hurt?" Krieg asked, shrugging off his ruined floral pattern shirt. Light glinted off his golden, wood steel armor. The gray-haired man shifted, activating his armor's weapons, twin Gatling guns appearing from his shoulders. "Get down!" A chef known as Carney yelled, himself, Patty, and a half-dozen other chefs diving for cover. Those who didn't move in time were left exposed when Krieg's guns roared to life, bullets blowing holes through several unlucky chefs. Most of the injuries were non-life-threatening, but Coby squeaked as a body with a bullet hole through the face hit the floor beside him. Krieg smirked as his guns slowed to a stop, smoking. He was clearly proud of his work, surveying the damage and death until his eye was dragged to the door to the kitchen where a newcomer entered the scene. Zeph trod his way past his wounded and lost employees, a large sack over his shoulder like a one-legged Santa. He dropped it in front of the notorious pirate. "Here," he said. "That's about 100 meals. Head chef's F." The cooks cried, aghast at the actions of their boss. Krieg seemed to recognize the name because his eyes widened. "You're Redfoot's F," he gasped in reverence. The unrivaled captain who was also the ship's cook. They say you got your name because you only used your feet in battle and they were always covered in the blood of your enemies. So you are alive. I am, Zeph nodded. I lost a leg, but I can still cook. Give me your logbook, Krieg demanded. The Grand Line may have bested me once, but with your logbook, I would be unstoppable. I had the best men. The best equipment. I just lacked the needed information. With it, I'd become the king of the pirates. No way. Luffy yelled, apparently that part of the encounter warranting his intervention. I'm gonna be king of the pirates. Shut up, Luffy. Usopp shouted in worry. He'll kill you. Brat, Krieg growled, I don't have time to deal with you right now. After I feed my men, I'll finish you off. The admiral carried the food out of the broken doors and onto his flagship. Jin stayed behind, tears rolling down his cheeks. I'm so sorry, he cried, his accent back with the absence of his captain. I'm so sorry. Don't apologize, Jin, Sanji told him. Once they're fed, I have no obligation toward them. I'll kill any man who attacks this restaurant as long as they have food in their stomachs. Please, Jin begged. Please leave, Sanji. I don't wanna see you die. I don't care, Sanji shot back, gesturing to the chefs around him. We don't care. This restaurant is our livelihood and the old man's dream. We won't abandon it until we're dead. Hey, Jin. Luffy interrupted before he could say more. I thought you said you didn't know anything about the Grand Line. I don't know anything anymore. Our entire fleet was wiped out in only 7 days. All by one man. I can still feel his murderous gaze like that cold hand o' death. His eyes were like a hawk's. Zoro and Coby tensed. Wait, you mean? Coby trailed off. Hawkeye Mihawk, the older of the two muttered. You know him, Zoro? Luffy asked. How could you not know him, Luffy? Coby questioned. He's the world's greatest swordsman and one of the 7 warlords of the sea. He's one of the strongest men in the world. Huh. Neat. I'm sorry, Jin cried again as the remaining cooks prepared for war. I'm so sorry. The Barity rocked violently, throwing Jin to the floor. At the same time, some force raced through the building. Jin shivered on the floor, his eye widening. No, he whispered, pushing himself to his feet and racing for the door. Not him. Not again. The rest of the Barity's occupants followed him, just reaching the outside to see Jin dive into the water. Krieg's ship outside was in tatters, masts leaning, sails torn, and planks broken. It was a miracle that the ship had made it to the floating restaurant, but it wouldn't be going anywhere else. The Flagship, a 3-masted galleon, had been split into 3 separate pieces as if cut by a sword, the interior now taking on water at an unstoppable rate. Within the wreckage, Jin surfaced with 2 of his crewmates, depositing them on a larger piece of ship that could hold them before sucking in a breath and diving again. Others able to save themselves swam to the fence still up from Coby and Zoro's daily training. A little way to the side floated a small, coffin-shaped raft with giant candles burning green fire. The man aboard it was dressed in a red musketeer outfit complete with a white feather. On his back was a grand sword with a gold handle encrusted with various jewels. Around his neck was a plain gold cross. He had a small mustache and goatee and his eyes were yellow and cold. He was, slowly, returning the giant sword to its position on his back. That's crazy, Usopp gasped. Did he just cut that ship? I'm glad the Mary is on the other side of the restaurant. Big bro Zoro. Johnny and Yozaki yelled, running around from the other side of the deck. Big bro Luffy. Big bro Usopp. Little bro Coby. Big sis Nami took the ship and left. What? Usopp demanded. You better be joking. We aren't. She stole the ship. They explained in overlapping voices that she'd pushed them off before saying that they would see each other again if it was meant to be. We have to catch up to her, Luffy said. Nami is the only navigator I'll accept on my crew. Why does it have to be her? Zoro questioned, turning to Luffy. She stole our Zoro's eyes narrowed as he zeroed in on the swordsman. That's him. Why are you doing this? The Krieg pirates shouted at the man on the raft. Just killing time, he replied nonchalantly. Zoro broke away from his crew, pulling his bandana off his bicep and tying it around his head. He hopped from flotsam to flotsam until he reached the biggest intact piece of the ship. You are Hawkeye Mihawk, are you not? My name is Uranoa Zoro, and I challenge you to a duel. Holy shit. A pirate cursed. 3 swords. Uranoa Zoro. Another gasped. The pirate's backing away. He's the demon butcher of the East Blue. Why are 2 monsters here at the same time? Mihawk calmly made his way onto the ship before pulling off his necklace. He opened it to reveal a blade no bigger than a butter knife. So you are well known around these parts, the swordsman observed. Still, this is the most peaceful of the 6 seas and the weakest of the 4 blues. One shouldn't use a cannonball to kill a fly, but it still feels like I'm shooting a mouse. I'm sorry, I don't have anything smaller than this. The warlord said this without any mocking tone. Zoro was insulted anyway. Demon slash. He pulled his swords out and charged, but the man held him back with ease. Zoro pulled back and dove forward, attacking with everything he had. Tell me, Mihawk said without emotion, countering effortlessly. What drives you forward? Why do you fight? Zoro stopped his assault to reply, backing away to put distance between the combatants. I fight for my dream and my ambition, he answered. I will be the world's greatest swordsman, and to do that I must defeat you. Tiger trap. Zoro attacked again, but his swords never connected. He continued to swing, his attacks becoming more frenzied as the time dragged on. Mihawk's eyes stayed on the green-haired man as he began to sweat. Finally, Zoro overextended, the warlord's small knife stabbing Zoro just over his heart, piercing his left lung. You aren't stepping back, Mihawk observed as blood dripped from the wound. Why not? I don't know, the younger pirate coughed, but I can't step back. If I retreat even a single step, I'd be turning my back on all the promises I've made. I like your determination. State your name. I am Uranoa Zoro. I will remember your name, Uranoa Zoro, Mihawk stated, pulling his knife out of the pirate. Zoro almost sagged, but he caught himself. You have a strong heart, so, I'll fight you with the world's strongest black blade. I'm honored. Zoro began spinning his swords. 3 sword-style secret technique, 3,000 worlds. The 2 attacked, stopping behind each other. The 2 swords Zoro held in his hand shattered and blood spurted from a new wound in his chest. Disappointed but content, Zoro removed Watafumanji from his mouth, sheathed it, and coughed red. He turned to face his adversary, raising his arms wide but without fear. Why do you not run? Mihawk asked. Having never seen this sort of show from any of the beginners he'd outclassed over the years. It is obvious you are beaten. Scars on the back are a swordsman's shame, Zoro responded. If I die with a scar on my back, I'll have tainted everything I ever stood for. Very well. Hawkeye smirked, liking the phrase, and brought his sword down across the green-haired man's chest. Zoro fell into the ocean with another spurt of blood. Big Bro Zoro / Zoro Sensei / Zoro. The bounty hunters dove into the water after him, pulling him into the ship Johnny and Yosaku had arrived in. You bastard! Luffy shouted, Usopp and Coby grabbing each of his arms as he struggled to reach the warlord. He will not die, Mihawk stated. It has been a long time since I have found a worthy opponent. My name is Dracula Mihawk. Become stronger, Uranoa Zoro, and seek me out. We will have a proper duel then. Zoro raised his now only sword, his body trembling with emotion and pain. Luffy, he wheezed for all to hear, his voice calming the still irate pirate captain. I'm sorry. I've failed you. From this moment on, I will never lose again. Not until I am the strongest. Is that alright, King of the Pirates? Yeah, Luffy smiled, turning to his crewmates. Coby, Usopp, Johnny, Yosaku, take a boat and follow Nami. Sanji and I will follow after we've kicked Krieg's ass. I'm not joining your crew," Sanji yelled. "With all due respect, Captain Luffy, I think I should stay," Coby offered, his knees shaking. Zoro's words about his improvement passed through his head, inflating his courage. "Zoro-sensei can't fight, so I should fight for him. Not only that, but Krieg used to be a Marine. You know how I feel about that. You warlord bastard," Krieg yelled as Usopp and the bounty hunters departed with Zoro, the foul-play pirate firing 2 bombs and a dozen bullets at the world's greatest swordsman. The bomb exploded, leaving a cloud of smoke that dissipated to show nothing but sea. "He's gone. No matter, we'll track him down again on the Grand Line. Men, take that ship. Kill the geezer and take his logbook." The man's crew, their spirits lifted with the disappearance of the warlord, complied and attacked. The cooks didn't seem to be a match for the pirates, their tools shattering, under the onslaught of the pirates' superior weapons. Sanji, on the other hand, was a beast on the battlefield. He fought with only his feet, spinning, jumping, and all around taking the pirates by surprise. "Krieg!" Luffy yelled, stretching his arm to grab one of the masts of the sinking ship. His move shocked everyone with the exception of Coby and Zeph. "I don't like you, so I'm gonna kick your ass." "What the hell is he?" Sanji asked as he watched the man who wanted him to become a pirate perform such an inhuman act. "Kid's obviously eaten a devil fruit," Zeph answered with a grunt, using his peg leg to kick a pirate into the sea. "It's been a while since I've seen something like that." Krieg got over his shock quickly. "You've eaten a devil fruit, haven't you?" he growled. "Yup. I'm a rubber man. Either way, I'll still kill you, brat." Luffy and Krieg started fighting on the wrecked ship, Luffy jumping around like a monkey and Krieg trying to hit him. "Stay still, you damn monkey. That is my family name," Luffy taunted. On the fins of the Barity, many of Krieg's men were still confused at what had just happened. Coby, in a showing of just how much of Luffy's personality had rubbed off on him, was running around and knocking pirates unconscious with his Bakugan. He was at the edge of the platform when a pirate finally tried to fight back. "You little brat," the larger pirate questioned, a sadistic scowl revealing his missing teeth as Coby held back his sword with a cross block. "What do you think you can do with a couple of sticks against a real sword? You'd be surprised how durable wood can be," Coby responded. He pulled back, smacking the man in the arm for good measure. "You little shit." Coby cut him off by spinning both his Bakugan into reverse grips and bringing them up next to his head. Bull Needle. Using one of the first moves he'd learned from Zoro, Coby ran forward and slammed his wooden swords into the man's chest, flinging him out into the ocean. Coby smirked at the shocked pirates. They were nothing compared to his teacher and still weakened from long-term hunger. Apparently, fighting against a far superior opponent is a fast track to getting stronger than the average mook. Who knew? Meanwhile, a new pirate had found his way onto the Barity's fins. This man, with droopy black hair and an "I'm better than you" expression, was covered in pearl and steel armor, complete with a matching hat. This was Pearl, the invincible wall. "Do you know who I am?" he asked as Sanji challenged him. "I am the invincible wall, Pearl of the Krieg pirates. I have fought in 61 battles and never lost even an ounce of my blood. You can never beat me." He was cut off when Luffy, who had been hit with Krieg's spiked ball, fell onto his head, causing a nosebleed. Of course, Luffy being rubber, the younger pirate wasn't affected. "Ow," Luffy complained as he stood and wiped his hat off. "That actually kinda hurt, you bastard." "And my blood," Pearl whispered in horror, his crewmates trying to convince him that it wasn't a battle wound without success. "These people are nuts." He started banging his 2 giant shields together. "Danger, danger, danger. Fire Pearl." His armor started burning blue and small pearls, also on fire, shot out and ignited the surrounding deck, pirates, and cooks indiscriminately. He shot 6 more pearls at the restaurant. but Zeph put them out with a single kick. Pearl was even more surprised when Sanji's leg met his face. "Beebit," he stammered, more blood dripping from his nose. "My fire scares away everyone." "Why aren't you scared, you monster?" "If I was afraid of fire, I wouldn't be a cook." Just to add insult to injury, Sanji lit a cigarette with the fire around them. "Danger! Danger!" Pearl panicked. "Pearl, stop! You are going to burn down my new ship!" Krieg yelled. Pearl didn't listen, his fire continuing to spread over the wooden deck. Goated, damn it! Lifting the spiked flail he had been using to try to crush Luffy, the ex-marine threw the ball as hard as he could, hoping to kill Sanji or knock Pearl unconscious. Luffy, however, had a different plan. "Gum Gum Bazooka!" Luffy shouted, jumping into the weapon's path and blasting back from whence it came, forcing Krieg to dive out of the way with an unmanly scream. It crashed into the base of one of the masts, which fell like a cut tree. Coincidentally, it landed on Pearl, knocking him out. Small fires raged on. "Stop where you are or I'll kills F!" Jin yelled, grabbing everyone's attention. He had finished rescuing his drowning crewmates but was still dripping water. He had snuck up behind the old chef through the restaurant and shoved him to the deck, now standing over him with a flintlock pressed to the old man's temple. They may have been notoriously inaccurate, but there was no way he could miss at that distance. "My captain wants this ship. Do it!" Krieg roared. "With Zeph dead, the cooks will give up." "But Don Krieg." Jin tried to protest, his sense of honor telling him to spare Zeph like Sanji had him. "We owe Zeph and Sanji our lives. When I give you an order, you do it without question. Kill him." "No," Sanji argued, pulling Jin's attention to himself. "Point that gun at me. Leave the geezer out of this." Jin wrestled with himself again, but in the end, his hesitation took the decision from him. A blob of white and pink in the corner of his vision was all the warning the man-demon had before one Bakken slammed into his face and another knocked the gun out of his hand. "Sanji! Behind you!" the little swordsman shouted as Jin began to recover. Coby's warning came in time, allowing the chef to turn, see a now awake Pearl try to attack, and counter by roundhouse kicking him in the face. Pearl flew toward Jin, who pulled out his weighted tonfa. His tonfa slammed into Pearl's circular armor in the center, shattering the so-called invisible wall and redirecting the ballistic man. Pearl coughed up a glob of blood as he was knocked into the ocean, unconscious and down for the count. "You were in my way, Pearl," Jin commented emotionlessly as he started to spin his tonfa. Killing a defenseless Zeph was different than fighting an awake Sanji, and his duty to Krieg hardened. "Sanji, I'm sorry it has to be this way, but you will die by my hand. Now." He lunged, swinging at the chef, who cartwheeled out of the way. While on his hands, Sanji twisted his body and kicked his foe in the head. Jin saw stars as he was hit with the unexpected attack, but was able to lash out with his right-hand weapon as he fell. The iron weight hit Sanji in the ribs, cracking two of them. Sanji stumbled away from Jin as the pirate fell onto his back, both clutching at whatever part of their body was struck. Both had blood dribbling from their mouths, but it seemed obvious that Sanji was worse off because of his labored breathing. "Please, Sanji," Jin begged, standing and righting himself. "I don't want to hurt you. If you just leave, I will not leave until my debt to the old man is repaid." The chef growled. Jin swung his right tonfa again, but the Sanji was able to stop it with the sole of his left foot. There was a clang. Evidence that Sanji's polished shoes were made of more than just leather. "Is that all you've got, Jin?" he questioned, slamming the weight into the fin and standing on it. The blonde brought his other leg up and kicked Jin in the chest, causing him to lose his hold on the weapon stuck in the wood. Jin stood from where he landed several feet away and shifted his only weapon from his left hand to his right, spinning it with the ease of several years' training. He charged and swung vertically, but overextended, which could be explained on the probable concussion the chef had dealt to him. Sanji responded by jumping up and locking both feet on either side of his foe's torso before spinning him so that Jin's head crushed the wood beneath them, which certainly didn't help the poor pirate. Jin tried to get up and shrug the blow off, but he was too disoriented to stand. "I'm sorry, Don Krieg," he slurred. "He's too much for me." "Too much?" Krieg roared. "Too much? Krieg pirates never have a too much. I have no need for a worthless pirate that faces too much. You're fired, Jin." "Boo Don Krieg, you're fired. Kill yourself now." "Ah. Yes sir." Jin crawled over to where his flintlock had fallen and raised it to his head, ready to pull the trigger, but before he could do so, Luffy's fist met his face. Jin fell unconscious and the gun tumbled from his relaxed grip. "Oh no you don't," Luffy chastised. "I like you, so you aren't gonna die on my watch." "That bastard couldn't even follow my last order," Krieg sighed. "Well, it doesn't matter, he'll die anyway. Men, get your masks." "No," shouted a pirate. "Not the MH5. Krieg didn't listen. He lifted up the shield from his left shoulder and pointed it at the Barati as the plates separated to point the barrel of the firing mechanism. Pirates scrambled to get gas masks from within their clothes and cooks dove into the sea. Luffy, worried for his crewmates, though Sanji wouldn't admit he was one, stretched his arms to a couple of pirates and ripped their masks off before tossing them to Coby and Sanji. The chef hurried to Jin's side, shuffled through the unconscious man's jacket, and placed his mask on his face. Krieg fired the poison bomb. Luffy was surprised when a gas mask was shoved onto his own face, but he was too concerned to question it at the moment. Krieg laughed as he watched the purple poison cloud cover the fish-shaped ship. He was certain that Jin, the cook, and Straw Hat were dying from the gas. Coby kept his eyes shut, his cheeks bulging as he tried to hold his breath. The toxic gas around him didn't hurt to touch, but actually was almost soft. To that end, however, it was still obvious the gas hung in the air as his lungs started to beg for oxygen. His hands came up to cover his mouth, but fighting your own body is something one can only do for so long. Without his consent, Coby sucked in. Then his lungs burned for a whole new reason. It felt like his insides were on fire, the young pirate falling to his hands and knees and curling in on himself. Every ragged breath, because he could not take only one, felt like the end of the road. He felt the wind blowing the purple cloud away, but the horrible fire inside him remained. The cloud cleared to show Luffy on the fins, a gas mask pressed to his face, with a certain pink-haired teen beside him. The boy was curled up on the ground, deathly pale with a sickly blue tint. Indeed, the mask that had saved Luffy had not come from nowhere. Zoro's student had dropped his wooden swords to catch the mask and had prioritized his captain's life over his own. "No!" Luffy wailed, dropping his mask and rolling Coby over. Bits of purple smoke were laced in every exhale of the poor boy. "Coby! Come on, Coby!" Luffy pleaded as Patty, Carney, and Zeph came back out of the restaurant where they'd been hiding from the gas. Luffy dropped to his knees next to his youngest crewmate. "Speak to me." "See Captain," Coby wheezed. "Tell Zoro-sensei, I'm sorry." "Oh no. Oh no no no. You are not dying here." "Patty, Carney, get the kit," Sanji ordered. "But Sanji," Patty argued. "The kit's for food poisoning. It's his best chance." Sanji ran over, stopping next to the two friendly pirates. "Give him to me." "Take care of him," Luffy ordered, Sanji picking up the poisoned Coby and carrying him to the doors where the other two chefs took him into the building. Luffy's eyes were shaded by his hat, a sign to anyone that knew him that someone had just pissed him off and royally screwed themselves over. "Krieg." Luffy's voice was low, danger-filled and murderous. "You have just signed your death warrant. No one tries to kill my Nakama in front of me and lives." "Sanji, hold my hat." Luffy threw his straw hat back toward the cook and began taking slow, deliberate steps toward the older pirate. Krieg stayed where he was and formed his battle spear. When Luffy was on the fallen mast, Krieg attacked. He struck the end of the mast with his spear, which caused a large explosion. Luffy didn't even flinch. Using the momentum of his side of the mast being forced up like a giant pivot, he jumped into the air and put his feet together. Spear? He thrusted his feet forward, kicking the foul play admiral in the face. Luffy's voice had lost the airy tone it usually held when he called out his attacks. Krieg went down as the teen landed, but Luffy didn't let up. He leapt forward and grabbed Krieg's shoulders, flipping and spinning as he did so. When his feet touched down, Krieg was lifted into the air. Hammer. They wood splintered where Krieg landed and he coughed up blood. The wanted pirate pulled himself up and glared at the younger man. He pointed his right hand at the teen and unleashed his flamethrower, but Luffy only shifted out of the way. The teen's right arm shot out along the edge of the fire, blistering but not slowed. Pistol. The fist hit Krieg in the face, throwing the older pirate to the edge of the wreckage, but Luffy wasn't done. He reached over, grabbing the man's spear, and chucked it as the armored pirate was just getting up, not giving Krieg any chance to dodge. Krieg, however, had other tools up his sleeves. Or in this case, the inside of his cape. Said cape was lined with steel and spikes that absorbed the explosion the spear released, the force still pushing Krieg into the railing behind him. He smirked as the explosion cleared, shifting the cape so he could go on the attack again, and saw Luffy charging. "You're getting on my nerves, boy," Krieg shouted, pulling spiked gloves from within his armor. Luffy approached, his shorter height causing Krieg to stare down at his opponent. The man raised fist, punching downward. "Die." Luffy didn't respond, his own fist meeting Krieg's gauntlet without flinching, even as the spikes tore into his knuckles. His other plowed into Krieg's armor-covered torso, the armor ringing like a bell as the ex-marine was thrown into the ocean. "Ha!" Krieg laughed when he surfaced. "Now you can't attack me. Those with the powers of the devil can't swim." "How heavy is that armor?" Luffy questioned. "What are you blabbering about, now?" Krieg yelled back. "How heavy is your armor?" Luffy asked again. "You're pretty far out there and that armor must be heavy. How long can you tread water before you drown? We could be here all day." The other pirate shouted. "Then how about this?" Luffy's arm reached over to the Baraty's fins and grabbed Jin's discarded Danfa. The weapon ripped through the wood as the rubber man's arm snapped back. He threw his arm behind him before shooting it forward. Gum loaded pistol. The weight on the end of the Danfa slammed into Krieg's face, breaking his nose, giving him a concussion, and leaving him unconscious in the middle of the ocean in heavy wood steel armor. Luffy wasn't done, however, his free hand reaching out to grab Krieg by the face and drag him back. He didn't deal any more damage to the man, but threw his limp form onto the Baraty's fin. "He's some sort of big shot, right?" Luffy asked. "Take his bounty. Call it payment for Sanji." "You're trying to buy me now?" said Blonde demanded. The rest of the cooks threw up a cheer. Their restaurant was saved and Krieg was powerless. His opponent defeated, Luffy's worry about his youngest crew member's well-being came back to the forefront of his mind. "Coby." Luffy dropped Jin's weapon and dashed to the doors of the Baraty, but he was stopped by Sanji and Zeph. "Let me through. I have to get to Coby." "He's fine," Zeph told him. The runt's sleeping off the poison still in his system. "We were lucky enough to get most of it out by using a gas mask to clear the air in his lungs, but he won't be able to move for at least 12 hours. Luffy, calm down. On the bright side, he'll have a slight immunity to some poisons and toxins from the amount of damage the MH5 gas did." "You really care for your crew, don't you?" Sanji asked, handing the pirate his hat. "Of course," Luffy answered as he placed his treasure back on his head. "They're my nakama, my family. I'd never turn my back on them." I've made a decision," Sanji said. "You don't have to buy me. I've decided to join you as your cook." "About damn time, you stupid eggplant." "Wonderful." Luffy cheered as Zeph mumbled. "What's your dream?" What? Your dream? Everyone on my crew has to have a dream to chase. Mine is to be the Pirate King. Zoro's is to be the world's greatest swordsman. That sort of thing. Well, my dream is to find the All Blue, a place where fish, from all four blues swim together. It's only a legend, a rumor. But I'm going to find it. Welcome to the crew, Sanji. How's Jin? He regained consciousness during your fight with Krieg, Zeph answered. He's sitting inside rethinking his life choices. I want to talk to him. Why? Sanji asked. I want him on my crew. He's a good guy. Sanji smirked. I can't disagree with you there, Captain. Luffy passed them by and entered the establishment. At the only table standing was Jin in a chair, his head in his hands. He made no motion as Luffy approached, but he did speak. Leave me alone, the man-demon moaned. I've no purpose anymore. Then let me give you one, Jin. Jin's head snapped up. What? You heard me, Luffy stated, crossing his arms. Join my crew. Jin floundered for several seconds. Yeah, want me on your crew? But I disobeyed my captain. I talked back to him. I don't have underlings. I have friends. We're all equal on my crew. You can refuse to follow anything but a specific captain's order and I will never order you to kill someone. Especially someone as nice as the old man. Do I? Jin swallowed. Do I know anyone? Are there any rules? Sanji joined as our cook, but I'd have one condition. And what would that be? Jin asked, the excitement that had appeared in his eyes slowly turning into fear. You'd have to find a dream to follow. A big one. Something you'd risk your life for. Jin blinked in surprise. I was only there for a short time, and that week was terrifying, but I want to sail on the Grand Line again. Not only that, but I want to conquer it. I can't explain it, but I want to. Not just for me, but also for all the friends I lost there. I hired deckhands for Krieg, so a lot of them were there because of me. I need to do it for them. May I follow you, Don Luffy? Luffy smiled. Welcome to the crew of the Straw Hat Pirates, Jin. The surviving Krieg pirates were piled onto the Baraties errand boat, and sent off to sea. Jin had been able to say his goodbyes to them and they to him, each wishing luck on their paths. Most of them, as a matter of fact, had sworn off piracy in totality and a select number applied for jobs on the Baratie since they didn't have anywhere else to go. Yozaka had returned in the mouth of a pan shark, how was still a mystery, and had informed Luffy that he thought they'd figured out where Nami was going. Luffy, a still pale Coby, Sanji, Jin, and Yozaka prepared to depart as soon as they could on Sanji's personal ship, a small boat painted with green stripes. They were waiting for the chef at the moment since he needed to gather his things. Are you sure you're okay, Coby? Luffy asked for the third time, his rubber body stretching in every angle to make sure none of Kobe's body parts were going to fall off. I'm fine, Captain. Coby insisted. The chef said I just need a couple days rest and good food. Good food is something we'll get with Sanji around, Jin commented as he stepped out of the bathroom and joined Luffy, Coby, and Yokozu by the boat. I don't know if you have a great taste in crewmates or a horrible one, Don. You can just call me Luffy, Jin. The captain offered, snapping back into shape. You too, Coby. I'm no more important than you guys. Sorry, Don, but it's a habit. It's a sign of respect for me. Same here, Captain. That's why Johnny and I call you all big bro. Well, alright, as long as you aren't forcing yourselves to call me that, then I guess it doesn't matter. Say, Jin. Why aren't you talking the way you did before? What do you mean, Don? Yeah, like that. Earlier, you would have said. Luffy's face contorted until he looked like Jin. What do you mean? His face returned to its normal shape. You're talking, I don't know, standard. That's, Jin shifted. I don't know what you're talking about, Don. It must have been the hunger or the concussion. Jin tried to stop fidgeting as Luffy's stare continued to bore a hole into him. "Well, it's not my business," Luffy finally shrugged. "If you want to talk different, that's up to you." Thanks?" "Oh, there's Sanji," Coby pointed out, hoping to break the awkward tension that Luffy had created. As Coby had said, Sanji stepped out of the front doors with a simple rucksack, trying not to look back. The chefs that stood by were stoic and tense. "Come on," Sanji said as he got closer. "Let's soy, eggplant," the voice of Zeph grunted from the second floor, causing Sanji to stiffen. "Be safe out there, Chef's F," Sanji yelled, dropping his things to bow to the man who had essentially raised him. "I can never repay you for all the kindness you've shown me, but I'll do it. I'll do what you didn't. I'll find the all blue, no matter what. So thank you." "Stupid eggplant," Zeph muttered, and Coby could have sworn he was holding back a few tears himself. "Get going. That pretty girl needs your help, doesn't she?" "Right," Luffy interrupted. "Let's go. We have to get to. Where are we going?" "The Konami Isles," Yozaku answered. "It's said to be the base of Arlong the Fizman." Chapter 4. Luckily for Luffy, Coby, Jin, Yozaku, and Sanji had enough navigational knowledge between them to sail to their destination of the Konami Isles after leaving the Barati. Yozaku projected the trip would take about 3 days and the rest of the crew should be about a day ahead of them. Nami only left a little bit before Usopp, Zoro, and Johnny, but navigating was her specialty, even with a bigger ship. She was likely ahead by a full day at that point. The days passed in something of a blur, for Coby more so than the other guys since he was still recovering from the MH5 poison. With Sanji as the dedicated chef, the food stores on the ship easily weathered Luffy's gluttony like Luffy's rubbery head weathered Sanji's steel-toed shoes. Outside of those hourly scuffles, nothing really happened during their trip until the third day. "Do you think they've found Nami yet?" Luffy asked, leaning against the tiny cabin on the boat and staring up at the clouds. Sanji was inside, cooking a meal of rice, meat, and bean sprouts for them away from Luffy's thieving arms. "It's possible," Coby replied, mostly cured of the poison thanks to the quick action of the chefs during the battle. "I don't know much about the Konami Isles, but I remember hearing that it didn't have much marine presence. Even so, Alvida still avoided them because of rumors about Sawtooth Arlong. Is he another guy like Krieg?" "Not even Krieg would want to fight Arlong," Jin commented. "You're strong, Don Luffy, but Arlong is supposed to be a literal monster." "I've been called a monster before," Luffy shrugged. "That's not what he means, big bro," Yozaku put in. "Arlong is a fishman from the Grand Line. He's not human. Johnny usually carries the bounty posters, but he's got a face you can't forget, blue skin, cold eyes, and a serrated nose sharp enough to pierce bone." Yozaku shivered. "He's just a little over mine and Johnny's class for now." Jin shivered from the mere mention of the Grand Line, but his eyes hardened. Perhaps these fishmen would be the first step to obtaining his goal. "I saw Nami take Arlong's bounty poster when we ran into Full Buddy," Coby offered. "I'm afraid she's mixed up with him somehow if that's where she's headed." "Do you think she's faked us out?" "I'm worried about her," Luffy admitted, though there was no change in his disposition. "I know Nami and she wouldn't take the Mary without a really good reason." "Is there something going on between you and Big Sis Nami?" Yozaku asked. "I don't think I've ever seen you this concerned about anything." "Nami's nakama," the teen shrugged. "She's part of my crew and I won't accept anything less than that. I'm gonna be the king of the pirates, which means I need to have the best of the best on my crew, and something tells me Nami is gonna be the best navigator in the world one day." "The best of the best?" Coby whispered. "If that's what you want, Captain, then why am I?" Coby's self-doubt was cut off by a quick punch to the cranium. To his credit, Coby didn't cry out in pain like he had when they first met, even if the hit still hurt. "You're gonna be strong, Coby," Luffy said before Coby could ask why. I've got this feeling about you, not just you, but everyone on our crew. I just know we'll all do what we set out to do. I'm gonna be the king, Zoro's gonna beat Mihawk, you're gonna be a hero, Usopp's gonna be brave like his dad, Sanji's gonna find the All Blue, and Jin's gonna be there with us when we conquer the Grand Line. If I didn't think you could do it, I would have left you back at that base. But didn't you try to do that? Yeah, but you'd said you wanted to be a Marine. You changed your mind, so I did too. Anyway, you said Arlong is from the Grand Line, right? I bet he's strong, then. He's got the highest bounty of any pirate in the area, Yozaku nodded. He's worth 20 million, but I'm honestly not sure how that compares to some in the Grand Line. He once sailed with a warlord, though. A warlord? Coby asked. One of the 7 warlords of the sea, the pirates sanctioned by the world government to fight for them? Why would anyone become a warlord? Luffy blinked. Being a pirate means being free from all those rules. I'm sure they each have their own reasons, Jin commented. Mihawk is one of them, and you saw how strong he is. He took down Zoro without even trying. There are a few others that have been in the paper, Coby continued. I've heard about Boa Hancock, the one who's called the most beautiful woman in the world. And there's Gecko Moria. He used to be a rival of one of the 4 Yonko, supposedly. The last one I know about is Jinbai, a fishman. Jinbai is the one who sailed with Arlong, Yozaku nodded. The rumor is part of his agreement to become a warlord was freedom for Arlong and some of his former crew from the marine prison impelled down. That was almost a decade ago, and Arlong has been lying low here in East Blue since. Scary Jin whistled. I'm guessing Arlong isn't a good person like Don Luffy. Who cares? Luffy asked, turning all attention on him. If he's a jerk, I'll kick his ass. If he's hurting Nami, I'll kick his ass. If I feel like it, I'll kick his ass. That's all there is to it. I don't know if that was incredibly profound or incredibly stupid, but I'm all for helping Nami Swan. Sanji stepped out of the small cabin, a pair of steaming dishes in his hands. After all, it's a gentleman's job to save the damsel in distress. Food? Luffy questioned, all previous thoughts already replaced with the deep-rooted, instinctual desire to stuff his face. Food. Chill out. You rubbery moron. Sanji yelled with a kick to Luffy's face, the first time of many to come. This food is for all of you, so don't go hogging it all for yourself. Moo? What was that? Jin asked, jumping to his feet and pulling out his danfa. A cow? Yozaku wondered. Why would a cow be way out here in the ocean? Coby asked. Almost as if the universe was answering Kobe's question, the ship rocked, a swell of water growing upward from the port side. The bulge was stripped away by gravity, leaving a large, white cow with green splotches and a golden nose ring to stare down at them. The hell is that? Jin screamed, fumbling for his weapons. Sea monster. Coby yelled, pressing himself into the wall. Sea King. Yozaku cried. They're monsters from the Grand Line. Moo? I think it might be hungry. Luffy frowned, knowing instructively that the creature was eyeing their food. Then who am I to deny a starving creature? Sanji commented, taking slow, deliberate steps toward the Sea King. Its head lowered, sniffing the food Sanji was offering, only to open a mouthful of sharp teeth in an attempt to snap up more than just the plate. Sanji reacted quickly, jumping back to avoid the monster while still balancing his dishes. His leg snapped out, kicking the beast in the side of the face. That's my cook, bastard! Luffy shouted, his extended arm punching the reeling Sea King. It flopped backwards into the water, sending a deluge of pseudo-rain over the ship. Luckily, Sanji kept the food dry with his own body. Wow, Yozaku, Coby, and Jin muttered together. Anyway, food's up, Sanji announced, as if he and Luffy had not just subjugated a giant sea monster in seconds. Said monster was now floating next to the boat with a lump on its head, watching them eat with tears in its eyes. Hey, Luffy commented. his mouth filled with half the meat Sanji had prepared. "Can we eat the cow? Moo? I think it's too smart for that," Coby replied. "I mean, we could, but I'd feel bad about it since I think it's sentient." "Sen what? Can you eat that?" "No, Captain. It knows it's alive and can." Coby trailed off at Luffy's blank stare. "Jin, help. Oi, Don," Jin said, catching the pirate captain's attention. If it could talk, it could do math. "Wow." Luffy blinked. "That's a smart cow. Would we get to Big Sis Nami faster if we made that cow drag us?" Yozaku thought aloud through his bean sprouts. "Great idea." Luffy turned to the Sea King, already pulling out a rope. "All right, cow. If you don't want us to eat you, pull us that way." He pointed in a random direction off to starboard. "Wrong way." The rest of the ship's inhabitants roared. Using the Sea King to propel their ship through the water was the best decision the partial crew had made, but that was countered by how many times Luffy punched the creature in an attempt to make it go faster. The compounding damage started taking its toll on the poor cow as the Kanami Isles came into sight, the Sea King veering off course. Everyone barely had time to scream before they crashed, their ship being slingshotted into the air over land. The ship seemed to sail through the foliage of several trees before meeting a road with a lone traveler, said traveler screaming as the ship ran him over and continued its path through a rice field and into a cliff. Suddenly meeting more than air resistance, the boat shattered, leaving everyone under and in the wreckage. "We're here," Luffy called, popping out of the ruined ship. "What the hell?" the traveler shouted, pushing rubble off of himself to reveal Zoro. "What the actual hell, Luffy?" "Zoro-sensei," Coby greeted. "Are you okay? We didn't kill you, did we?" "Back off, shrimp. I'm fine. It's Usopp who's in trouble." "Oh Goda. Luffy, Arlong has Usopp. We need to save him. Now, before he gets killed." "Arlong's actually here?" Jin asked. "What about Big Sis Nami?" Yozaku fretted. "She's mixed up with him," Zoro answered. "I'm pretty sure she's a member of his crew. And she's a murderer," a new voice added, turning attention to Johnny by the road. "Johnny," Yozaku greeted, running to him. "Are you okay? What was that about Big Sissy Nami?" She murdered Big Bro Usopp." "What?" everyone yelled. "No way." Luffy denied. "Nami, why?" Coby wailed. "It's true," Johnny cried. "She's a traitor. And she's a member of Arlong's crew." "Shut up," Luffy ordered. "Nami would never do that." "I would never do what?" Nami approached, a look of contempt on her face. She had changed her top, now wearing a light green shirt with dark green spots. Her left hand was covered in a glove and she had her bow out. She had no sleeves on, revealing the tattoo on her left bicep, Arlong's mark. "I don't know what the hell you morons are doing here. But get lost. You aren't welcome here. Nami Swan," Sanji called with hearts in his eyes, his broken ship forgotten. "Do you remember me? You bitch." Johnny yelled at her. "You killed him. You killed Big Bro Usopp." The bounty hunter duo pulled out their swords and tried to rush forward, but Luffy was faster, wrapping his arms around them and holding them in place. "Where's Usopp?" Zoro demanded, prepping his single blade. Next to him, Coby lifted his Bakken with tears in his eyes. "Sleeping with the fishes," Nami answered without a shred of emotion. "Why you?" Zoro and his student ran at her, but the former was blocked by Sanji, claiming that a man should never hit a woman under any circumstances. The latter was able to duck around and attack, but the female blocked with her bow. She flinched when the force of the blow hit her gloved hand and pulled away quickly, kicking Coby in the side. The boy stumbled. "Arlong is looking for Zoro and his crew," Nami told them, trying to hide the pain from her hand, "so I'd suggest you leave now while you have the chance." She turned to leave. "Nami," Luffy said, stepping ahead of the rest of the group. The young woman turned, slightly, just enough to look the beheaded teen in the eye. This isn't you. I know it's not. Whatever's wrong, let us help you. You think I want your help? Nami hissed. Are you more stupid than I thought you were? I tricked you and that's all there is to it. You were swindled and I stole all the money you had. Leave with your lives, since that's all you have left. Get the hell out of here, Nami. She didn't listen, walking away without looking back. Damn it, Zoro growled, sitting under a tree. What do we do now? I will accept no one but Nami as our navigator, Luffy stated, still staring at the point in the distance where she had disappeared. I'm staying. Are you crazy, big bro Luffy? Yosaku questioned. She killed big bro Usopp. Johnny added. I don't believe it. Luffy shook his head. Nami's our friend. She'd never do something like that. Well, I, for one, am leaving, Yosaku stated. Johnny, big bro Zoro, let's go. I'm staying, Zoro told him without moving. I'm not the captain, I don't decide the crew members. If Luffy wants Nami as the navigator, then we'll convince her to join one way or another. Hell, maybe we'll kidnap her. We will not. Sanji protested. Fine. Good luck, guys. The bounty hunters walked away, leaving the crew in the road. With some momentary peace and quiet, Zoro was able to collect his thoughts and look at the people around him. Wait. You're that guy from Krieg's crew, aren't you? I am, Jin answered. Krieg fired me for disobedience when I refused to kill Redfoot's F. Don Luffy saved my life and offered me a place on his crew. I am known as Man Demon Jin and have a bounty of 12 million beerus. I fight with dual-weighted tonfa and am good at making tattoos. It's nice to meet you, Pirate Hunter Roronoa Zoro. I know of you, Jin. And you obviously know me. Good. Hey, Shrimp, how was the fight? He was poisoned by Krieg, Luffy said before Coby could answer, some of his dislike for the pirate brought up by the mention of his action. So I kicked his ass? And I see you got the perverted cook to join us, Zoro observed. You wanna say that again, Mosshead? I'll say it as many times as I want to, Blondie. Come at me, you third-rate swordsman. Sure thing, swirly-eyed bastard. The two would have started fighting if Jin had not grabbed Sanji from behind and Coby tried to hold his mentor back. All attention was diverted from the growing aggression, however, when a figure in a cloak ran through, stopped, slowly turned around, and yelled in surprise. What are you looking at? Zoro growled. Guys, you're here. When Usopp? Coby blinked, the figure pulling his hood off to reveal the long-nosed sniper. You aren't dead. Nami saved me, Usopp responded, gesturing to the slight red discoloration on the front of his overalls. Arlong had me prisoner because I went to save Zoro and was going to kill me, but that's when Nami got back. She said she was gonna kill me and faked it, stabbing her own hand while telling me to run away. I fell in the water and managed to swim out of Arlong Park, but I was just about to go back to save Zoro. See? Luffy smiled. I told you Nami was good and that she wouldn't kill Usopp. Well, yeah, Zoro admitted. You were right there, but she's still a member of Arlong's crew. If we're going to help her, we're going to need to know what's going on and why she's working for him. I think I can help with that, Usopp said. Or, I know someone who can. Follow me. The long-nosed teen led them into Kokoyashi village before directing them to an out-of-the-way house with a tangerine orchard. He explained that he'd met this person when they'd saved him from capture when he first got to the island, after he shot Arlong in the face, which the crew wasn't sure was true or not. Inside the orchard was a small, wooden house with a porch, which Usopp approached without pause and knocked on the door. The one who answered was a woman with short, blue hair and several tattoos around her right arm and collarbone. She was dressed in a blue crop top that matched her hair and showed off her figure, and a pair of jeans. She also had dark blue eyes and a red bandana. Sanji instantly swooned over her. Oh my darling. Your beauty knows no bounds. Not even a horde of fishmen could keep me from helping a woman such as yourself. Thanks? She answered, turning to Usopp with something of a worried look. No, Jiko, this is my crew, not yours. This is Luffy, Usopp continued, ignoring his captain, Zoro, Coby, Sanji, and Jin. Right? Wait, what are you doing here? You just noticed? Coby and Jin demanded. Ahem, the liar coughed. Guys, this is Nojiko, Nami's sister. Nojiko. A beautiful name befitting such an attractive woman. Oi. Pervy cook. Shut up. You wanna make me, Marimo? Not now, Jin sighed, hitting the swordsman and chef over the head with one of his tonfa each. Caught off guard, both men dropped to their knees. Zoro-sensei. Coby fretted as Luffy laughed at the two nursing their head wounds. Well, you sure are a lively bunch, Nojiko giggled, causing Sanji to swoon again and turn noodle why. I can see why Nami enjoyed her time with you. Can you tell us why Nami left? Coby asked. Well, it all started when we were younger. 8 years ago, to be exact, Nojiko began, but Luffy stopped her. I don't want to hear this from someone who isn't Nami, he stated. Pasts are a personal thing, and if Nami wants me to know, then I'll hear it from her. I'm going to go for a walk. He left. While confused by the younger man's action, Nojiko talked about their adoptive mother Balimir, Nami's dream to draw a map of the world, the arrival of Arlong, Balimir's death, and Nami's deal with the fishmen to buy back her village. By the end of the story, Coby, Usopp, and Sanji were crying, with the latter rambling about how Nami was just as brave as she was beautiful. Zoro and Jin were silent, the former because that's just who he was, and the latter because he'd seen and heard worse. That didn't mean he didn't sympathize, but shit happened. We have to help her. Coby reaffirmed now that he knew the whole story. Those fishmen. He was cut off by a crash from outside, Nojiko jumping to her feet and hurrying to the door. Stay here, she ordered, exiting and closing the door behind her, but the five in the building could still hear her voice. What are you doing here? She demanded. Chi-chi-chi, another rat-like voice laughed. I am Marine Captain Nezumi of Marine Branch 16. Coby tensed. More corrupt Marines here to crush his old dream further into the dust? That'd make 3, if one counted full buddy, in the 2 weeks he'd been a pirate. Am I correct in assuming this is the home of the pirate thief Nami? She grew up here, but this is no longer her home. We were adopted by the woman who lived here. I'm her sister, Nojiko. Can I help you? I think you can. You see, we've received word that she has a large stash of stolen treasures somewhere here on this property. Since she's only stolen from pirates, no charges will be pressed, but stolen is stolen, no matter who from. From this point forward, all that money will be the sole property of the Marines. Could you lead us to it? So this is what the Marines have fallen to? Coby whispered angrily. Stealing from petty thieves instead of arresting pirates holding an entire island hostage? Nojiko was more composed outside. I don't know what you're talking about. I haven't spoken to my sister in nearly 8 years. If she's got a stash of beerus, she hasn't shared it with me. It's not here. Fine, Nezumi grunted. If you can't lead us to it, we'll just have to find it ourselves. Men, search the orchard. No. Nojiko screamed. Those bastards, Sanji growled, Usopp and Jin grabbing him under the arms and dragging him away from the door. The chef's legs flailed as he tried to break their hold and defend the bayonet outside. Coby was barely holding himself back from attacking the Marine, though just barely. Don't touch Balimir's tangerines. If you won't comply, girl, then I'll have to shoot you for disrupting an investigation. And I'd have to shoot you for disrupting my livelihood without due cause, you rat. Hey! Don't pull up the trees. There was a scuffle. Let me go. Come on, men. Nezumi yelled. How hard can it be to find 100 million beerus? Nojiko sucked in a hard breath. How did you know that number? She hissed. What? Oh, let's just say I had a hunch. Chi-chi-chi. That laugh was just too much for Coby to hold back anymore, the boy running out of the house and drawing his bakkin. Nezumi was a seedy-looking man with a whisker-like mustache and a small goatee, the hairs swishing as the man's lower face twitched like a rodent. His marine uniform had an added hood pulled up to show the extra mouse ears on top. With the group was another man who was dressed in an old maroon army uniform. He had scars crisscrossing over his face and arms and a black mustache on his shocked face. A pinwheel spun in the wind from its spot on his hat. He was pinned to the ground by 3 nameless Marines so he couldn't help. Off to the side, Nojiko was held down by another 2, one of which had a lewd grin on his face, and he reached for the defenseless woman's rear. Luckily, Coby's entrance had distracted him and the rest of the Marines. "You corrupt bastard!" the pink-haired boy yelled angrily, pointing his right bakkin at the rat. "You're working with Arlong, aren't you? Where did you come from, little boy?" Nezumi drew a gun, taking aim for the boy. "Corrupt Marines like you sicken me. You should all go to hell." "No, Coby." Nojiko's yell came too late to stop the teen. Nezumi fired. The man may have been a Marine captain, but Coby refused to let himself be intimidated. He spun, the bullet just missing him to plow into the porch of the house. The rat's eyes widened as Coby charged with a battle cry, both of his wooden swords slamming into Nezumi's dominant arm. He gave a cry punctuated by a sharp crunch, and Coby was sure that meant something had given way. He was sure it wasn't his swords. "Get him, you morons!" Nezumi yelled as he dropped his pistol, backing away from the enraged Rosette while cradling his arm. A pair of grunts drew swords and advanced on the young pirate, Coby widening his stance, allowing them to approach him. "You're under arrest for attacking a Marine officer," the grunt on the left said. "Sorry, kid," the grunt on the right grunted. "Orders are orders, you know." "Yeah?" Coby growled, all of his anger turning to adrenaline and fearlessness. "You bastards can bite my ass. You asked for it." Both of the Marines raised their swords, bringing them down on the pirate. Coby's reflexes, however, were far better than either of the seaman recruits could have thought possible. Coby pushed into a roll between them, spinning into an incomplete dragon twister to sweep their legs out from under them. With them down, Coby quickly knocked them out with 2 overhead strikes to their heads. Satisfied, Coby turned back to the commander, only to see Nezumi with 6 Marines, lined up behind him, each with a rifle aimed at him. "Good show, boy," Nezumi chuckled, "but you've brought swords to a gunfight, and not even real ones. Any last words?" "Yeah. Go to hell, rat. Fire." The young student crossed his bakkin as a meager form of protection, and it saved his life. Zoro had chosen training tools strong enough to not only survive swords, but also stop a bullet from any basic rifle. That being said, stopping a bullet is different than surviving. Both bakkin shattered under the onslaught as they, by some divine miracle, blocked a total of 3 bullets that would have otherwise pierced Coby's vitals. Unfortunately, they did nothing for the 2 bullets that sunk into his shoulders and the one that ripped through his side. Coby staggered backwards as the bullets sank into his body with a splash of blood, both the teen and his blood falling to the ground. The boy grit his teeth so his cry of pain wouldn't reach the Marine's ears. His teacher wouldn't cry out, why should he? Coby tried to pull himself up, his wounded shoulders screaming in protest and the blood loss making him dizzy. "Sir!" one of Nezumi's men shouted, redirecting the man's attention from the shot boy to the Marine. "We found it." The 2 holding Nojiko and the 3 holding the other man released them, running over to see their prize. "Damn corrupt Marines," Nojiko bit out, falling beside Coby with the older man on his other side. She could do nothing as the government dogs stole all of her sister's hard-earned treasure. "We need to get this boy to a doctor," Pinwheel Guy said. He picked up Coby, and shot the Marines a dirty look. "Take him into town, Genzo," Nojiko told the man. "Some of his friends are inside. I'll get them." Pinwheel Guy headed toward the village with Coby in his arms while the woman went into her home. "Coby's been shot. Follow me." The four men complied. They wanted to beat the fuck out of all of the government personnel in the Tangerine Grove, but they wanted to be there for Coby more. The Marines didn't see them leave, they were too focused on the money. "Doctor! Help!" Genzo ran into the village as fast as he could while carrying the wounded boy. His shouting attracted a large crowd that met him in the center of town. On the outskirts, just within hearing range, was Nami behind a building and Luffy under a tree on the other side. "Genzo?" the town doctor asked. "What's wrong? What happened to this kid?" Luffy shot up at the sight of pink hair. "Those damn Marines shot him after stealing Nami's money," Genzo answered. "Coby!" Luffy yelled, pushing his way to the boy. "Coby, what happened?" "Captain Luffy," Coby muttered, the blood loss turning him slightly delirious. "I need to stop getting into these situations. It'll turn into a bad habit." "Shut up," Luffy told him firmly. "What happened? Who shot you?" They took it all. They were working with Arlong. The Marines. Arlong. He never meant to keep his side of the bargain. The boy passed out, the blood loss from the bullet wounds being too much for his young body. The young pirate captain didn't know what bargain his friend was talking about, but it wasn't long before the rest of his crew came running and following Nami's older sister. They, in broken and overlapping explanations, explained that Nami had agreed to buy back her village for 100 million beerus, but that Arlong had hired a corrupt marine to steal it all when she was close. Nami couldn't take it. All that hard work, stolen? It just couldn't be true. She ran off to confront Arlong. Meanwhile, the crew gathered in the doctor's office. He was clearly skilled, already working on bandaging the worst wound in the boy's side where the bullet had left an exit wound. "Will he be okay?" Luffy demanded. "I'd say no if he was any weaker," the doctor answered. "As it stands, though, he'll pull through. Something has made his blood thicker than the average person, so that probably saved his life." "What will we do, Don Luffy?" Jin asked in his normal, calm manner. "Nothing," Luffy answered, his eyes shadowed by his hat. But Luffy Usopp tried to argue. "We won't do anything," Luffy cut him off. "Not until Nami asks for help. Until then, we wait. It's not our business. Yet." "But the Marines," Usopp began. "We'll get what's coming to them," Luffy finished, "but they were hired by this Arlong and he's Nami's problem. When she wants help, we'll give it to her. One way or another, we'll deal with them." And so they waited. Coby woke up an hour later for a short period, but he was in no condition to move. The townspeople weren't as calm. They were arming themselves with anything they could find to attack Arlong Park, ready to march to their deaths as storm clouds rolled in from the east. They were all in the center of town, about to leave, when Nami returned, hysterical. Luffy and the rest of the crew watched from the office. "Stop!" Nami yelled, pulling out a knife. "Please, stop. Don't do this. I can get the money again. It's no problem. I have experience, now." "No, Nami," Genzo told her gently, taking her knife by the blade and dropping it on the ground. He ignored the blood, seeping from his fingers. "This is it. We've been cheering for you for these last 8 years, but now we know that Arlong won't let you reach your goal. But if you fight, the fishman will kill you." "We know," Genzo muttered quietly, much to Nami's horror. He reached forward, wrapping the girl in a tight hug that she was too shocked to return. "You've grown into a fine young woman, Nami. Live your life and keep growing. With us gone, you'll be free to follow your dream. Forget about us. We know we're going to lose, but you know what? We'll give 'em hell." "Yeah." The village cheered. Nami turned as the rest of the village's inhabitants passed her by, her hands uselessly snatching at arms and clothing but never holding anything for more than a second. Her voice would not work as she tried desperately to make them stop. It began to rain, the water coming down and washing over the girl. When they were gone, Nami stood there for a second longer before falling to her knees, the dirt turning to mud around her. She clutched the tattoo on her bicep, tears falling from her eyes and mixing with the rain. The glint of the knife caught her eye and rage filled her. Arlong, she whispered in a mixture of anger, desperation, despair, and hate. Arlong. She lifted the small blade and plunged it into her arm, straight through the tattoo. Wincing, she pulled the knife out, hoping that the rain and the blood and the pain would wash away her torment before she plunged it back and over, crying all the while. Arlong. 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 She primed the knife, to stab her arm once more, but someone grabbed her wrist. She tilted her head just enough to see who it was, tears streaming from her bloodshot eyes. Luffy? What? What are you doing here? Why the fuck are you here? Why? I told you to leave. 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 Her voice had gone from confusion to rage to utter despair. Luffy, she finally pleaded. Please. Help me. The teen smiled and removed his hat before placing it on her head, the girl letting out a small gasp at the gesture. With pleasure. He snapped his fingers and the other men walked out of the doctor's office. Coby was still inside since he was injured, but they'd all agreed that he'd done enough in the fights with Krieg and Nezumi. Usopp, you know the way. Take us to Arlong Park. Aye, Captain. Johnny and Yosaku, beaten and bloody, were sitting in front of Arlong Park when the villagers arrived. The sound of the laughter of the Arlong pirates flowed from inside the gate. The bounty hunters' clothes were ragged and Johnny's sunglasses had lost their glass, and they did not move as the men and women of Kokoyashi approached. Move out of the way. Genzo ordered as they drew closer. We have business with Arlong. If you go in there, you'll die, Johnny told them. We know that, but we would rather die fighting than live under Arlong and his crew any longer. Wouldn't you rather live free? Yosaku questioned. Well, of course, Genzo faltered. Then just wait for a few more minutes, Johnny finished. There's going to be a certain group of men that will come and they will free this island from Arlong's control. Who? The Marines? Genzo scoffed. They're being paid off to do nothing and worse. Far from it. Here they come. The armed villagers turned to see 5 men through the haze of the noonday heat, all of their eyes shaded. Each of them walked with an air of malice, their faces shaded by the sun behind them. Several citizens shuddered at the presence these 5 produced as they approached, partying for them as they arrived at the gate. The man in red at the head of the group moved to the gate while his companions formed a semicircle around him. He punched the gate, leaving a fist-sized dent in the metal, much to the crowd's shock. All sound from within the stronghold stopped, one voice calling out to ask the others what that noise had been. The man punched the wall again, leaving another dent. He punched it a 3rd time, ripping the gate from its hinges and flooding the surrounding air with dust that dropped visibility to 0. The dust cleared after a minute to show the fishmen, all of whom were standing with the exception one, surprised expressions on their faces. Which of you is Arlong? The kid who had punched the gate demanded, stepping through the now ruined entrance. That would be me, replied the light blue fishman sitting in the chair. He had a nose like a sawtooth shark and teeth to match. A dorsal fin stuck out of his long, curly, black hair and red sun tattoo was half hidden by his Hawaiian shirt. The mark of his crew was branded in his left forearm. Green shorts and sandals completed his ensemble. May I ask who you are? I'm Luffy. And I'm here to kick your fishy, blue ass. Shay ha 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 ha. Arlong laughed, his crew joining in. This pathetic human thinks he can take me on? Shay ha 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 ha. Arlong and his crew were too busy laughing at Luffy's, through their eyes, stupidity that they didn't see him approach Arlong's chair. Luffy cocked his fist back and punched Arlong in the face as hard as he could. The fishman went flying, shocking everyone of both species. He smashed into the wall at the other end of Arlong Park, the concrete caving in on either side over the unmoving captain. What? Hatchin the octopus fishman yelled. No human from the East Blue should be able to do that. Hatchin had pink skin and 6 arms. Instead of hair, 5 spikes grew out on his head and his mouth stuck out from his face. On his forehead was a sun tattoo similar to Arlong's. He also wore a red shirt with 3 armholes on each side and yellow shorts. "You," Coby growled. "What are you?" Coby was a large, muscular fishman whose skin was a darker blue than his captain's and had long black hair in a stupid hairstyle with some hair sticking up in 2 small, forward-pointing, pointed buns. The majority of his hair was pulled back into a ponytail that fell down to his knees, and his sun tattoo was nearly completely hidden from sight on one pectoral. He was clothed in a navy blue gi held together by a black belt. 2 fins grew from his elbows and looked like they would hurt. "Me?" Luffy questioned, cracking his knuckles. "I'm a pirate." "You bastard!" yelled Arlong's unnamed underlings. They ran at Luffy while waving their weapons, but were tossed back from whence they had come in a matter of seconds, scattering their unconscious forms around the area. "Damn it, Luffy," the blonde muttered through a cigarette. "Don't rush ahead. Save some for the rest of us." "He's right, Don," the other man commented. His now stopped weapons revealed to be tonfa with large iron balls on the ends. "It would be disappointing to have come all this way for nothing. We want to show off, too." The other 2 men came up to join them in the center of Arlong Park, silent. "Huh," Chu grunted. "Looks like we'll have to fight after all." Chu had light blue skin and light brown hair that framed his face. His mouth was elongated much like Hatchin's, but was thinner than his crewmates, and he was dressed in a darker blue shirt and brown shorts. He had an Arlong tattoo on his right arm and what looked like blush on his cheeks. "Don't worry," Hatchin said. He cupped his mouth and blew a noise like a trumpet for 15 seconds. "Mahmu. Come here, Mahmu." There was silence for a second before a lump in the water started getting bigger until it reached land and broke the surface. It was the sea cow. Mahmu's gaze swept over the battlefield and it fell on Luffy, Sanji, and Jin. Memories of their last meeting flashed through his head before coming to the conclusion that dealing with them was not worth it. With tears from the memories of the pain caused by those monsters, the sea beast turned and started swimming away. "Wait, Mahmu," Hatchin called, but the sea cow did not stop. "It's fine, Mahmu," Arlong said with an underlying threat, causing the large creature to freeze. "You can leave if you want, if you're gonna deal with the consequences." His fear of the humans being overridden by his fear of Arlong, Mahmu turned back and attacked. Expectedly, he was thrown from the island by the combined force of Luffy, Sanji, and Jin. "All right," Luffy stated, cracking his knuckles as the creature's moo of pain faded into the distance. "There's 4 of them and 5 of us. Who wants who?" "I'll take the octopus," Zoro smirked. "I need to thank him for helping with my escape." "The big one's mine," Sanji answered, dumping ashes from his cigarette. "I'll turn him into sushi." "A lot of sushi." "I guess that leaves me with the ugly one," Jin commented. "Unless you want to fight him, Usopp?" "Nope." The sniper responded a little too quickly. "He's all yours." "Stay back, Captain," Coby grunted, falling into a fighting stance. "We'll take care of these pests." Jin seemed to have a similar idea. "Don Luffy, please stand back. You'll need all your energy to fight Arlong. Let us handle his underlings." "Usopp, could you please provide cover fire?" Yeah," the long-nosed teen answered. "No problem." The battle began. "You," Hatchin shouted, pointing at Zoro with 3 of his arms. "Knew you tricked me. You'll pay for that." He cupped his mouth. Haki ink jet. A stream of black ink shot from the octopus fishman's mouth, arching through the air to hit Zoro. The swordsman was too quick, however, and was able to sidestep the attack. The ink continued on its path, dousing the villagers of Kokoyashi village in black. "Is that the best you can do?" Zoro questioned, running forward as fast as his injured body would allow. His opponent fired several more ink shots, but Zoro was able to easily avoid them. The human reached his foe and slashed at his face. In response, Hatchin ducked under the strike. Unfortunately for him, he didn't duck fast enough to save all of him. "My hair!" Hatchin yelled, feeling his spikes, where Zoro's lone blade had cut through the top 3 of his 5 spikes at a diagonal angle. "Knew you'll pay for that. Wait here." "I'm not just gonna wait here," Zoro replied. He swiped at the fishman, but Kurubi unintentionally got in the way, having been kicked by Sanji. Zoro's sword bounced off of his arm fins as he went flying by with the cook following close behind. "You got in my way, cook!" Zoro shouted at the blonde. "I don't have time to deal with you, mosshead!" Sanji shouted back as his own foe stood back up. "We'll settle it later." Sanji ran off as Hatchin emerged from his room on the 2nd floor of Arlong Park. "Haha." Hatchin laughed from the 2nd floor balcony, one sword in each of his 6 hands. "Now you face my 6-sword style." He jumped down with his swords, pointed forward so all the tips touched, his body spinning with the intent of shredding the pirate hunter upon impact. Zoro stepped out of the way, leaving the fishman to crash. The concrete cracked below him, the octopus groaning. "Ow!" Hatchin whined, his face supporting the rest of his body. "Knew that was a dirty trick. I just moved out of the way. Damn you." Hatchin jumped up and seemed to flail his arms at Zoro. Streaming wolf swords. The swordsman appeared to turn into paper, barely dodging each sword as it came by. At one point, Sanji flew by, but Zoro was too focused on dodging to notice. His focus was rewarded, however, by the smallest opening in Hatchin's guard, allowing the human to meet his cheek with a pommel strike. As Hatchin stumbled back, Zoro called out to the ragged men on the sidelines. "Johnny. Yozaku. I need your swords." "Sure thing, big bro." Johnny yelled back. The bounty hunters threw their swords toward the swordsman, who managed to jump into the air and catch the weapons with a surprising amount of ease. His own sword now firmly in his mouth, Zoro came down on Hatchin like a hunter out for blood. The fishman was on the defensive, all 6 of his swords being needed to fend off his opponent's 3. He didn't know how it was possible. This man was only a human, a wounded human if the bloody bandages were anything to go by. So how was it that he was not only keeping up with him, but beating him with half as many swords? Hatchin leapt back to put space between them and prepared an attack to rip his human foe apart. "Knew I'm done with you," the pink fishman yelled as he touched all of his sword tips together in front of him. Octopus pot stance, New Year's explosions. Hatchin rushed forward, but his swords were all stopped when Zoro met their points with his own overlapping weapons. Hatchin did not seem daunted, however, as he just pulled his swords apart, the force throwing Zoro off balance. Taking his advantage, the octopus man shot forward to headbutt Zoro in the chest, right over his wound. Zoro let out a pained yell around Wado as the force partially reopened his injury from his fight with Mihawk. He stumbled back, one fist press against his chest to try to numb the pain. Through his cloudy eyes, he was just able to see his opponent coming in for an unannounced attack, but he had enough time to counter. Dragon Whirlwind. Zoro spun, his swords kicking up a dust cloud from the displaced air. The force of the wind was strong enough to lift Hatchin and all of his swords. The fishman went up and came back down, as gravity did, hitting the ground for the 2nd time that fight. "Knew you got lucky," the 6-armed octopus man declared, jumping up from what must have been a painful landing. "I'll get you this time." Forward 6-sword waltz. He started spinning his blades like a fan and began walking toward the human with slow, steady steps. The green-haired man lunged forward. Demon slash. Zoro ended in a crouch behind his shocked adversary, said adversary's weapons falling apart in his hands. Hatchin was still, a look of disbelief on his face as his 300-pound swords fell to pieces, leaving only the handles in his hands. A second later, 3 slashes opened on his chest, blood falling from the relatively shallow but long wounds. Hatchin passed out, the shock combined with the sudden blood loss forcing his consciousness to shut down. Zoro sheathed Wado Akamenji as the large fishman collapsed. Zoro followed soon after, not unconscious but weak from blood loss. "You have no chance of winning?" Kyurubi sneered at his cigarette-smoking opponent, falling into a fighting stance as he did so. His right arm was extended and his right leg was placed forward. "I am a 40th dan in Fishman Karate. You are outmatched." "Your voice is getting on my nerves," Sanji replied, breathing out smoke. "I've got a lot of food I need to make for our celebration tonight, so if we could move this along, that would be great." "You overestimate yourself," Kyurubi shouted, shooting forward. The chef's leg snapped up, slamming into his opponent's face with his steel-toed shoe before the fishman could react. Kyurubi grunted as he was sent flying. "No," Sanji muttered. "You underestimate me." While in the air, Kyurubi did not hear his opponent, nor did he feel something glance off of one of his fins since the small sensation was dwarfed by the pain the cook's kick had caused, cracking his nose. Kyurubi smashed into the wall as two of the invading crew yelled at each other. "You got in my way, cook!" Zoro shouted at the blonde. "I don't have time to deal with you, mosshead!" Sanji shouted back as his own foe stood back up. "We'll settle it later." Sanji ran forward, roundhouse kicking Kyurubi in the side of the head, before he could really get back on his feet. Yeah, it was a dirty tactic, but it was a fight between pirates. Pirates played dirty. Kyurubi managed to snap himself out of the shock of how strong his foe was while in the air from the second kick, flipping and landing on his feet before skidding a few feet to slow himself. "You bastard," Kyurubi growled, brushing dust off his GI. "I'm going to break those legs of yours. I'd like to see you try." Incised, Kyurubi charged, prompting Sanji to jump into a spinning hook kick. Kyurubi, however, now had a feel for the chef's fighting style and ducked under the kick. The fishman caught his leg and lifted the chef over his head before throwing the human into the concrete at his feet, the damage causing the human to cough up blood. Giving him no time to collect himself, the black belt picked Sanji up and smacked him with one of his fins, throwing him across Arlong Park. The human reached the far wall and smashed through it, leaving a hole and flopping onto the road. "Well, that's done," Kyurubi growled. He glanced over to his crewmates' fights. Hatchin was attacking Roronoa with his swords and Chu was shooting water from the sea at the scruffy man with the tonfa and the long-nosed kid, both of whom were worse for wear. He moved to join Chu in his 2-on-1 battle, but an attack from the Battle of the Swordsmen knocked Hooky back. He saw Hickey fall and thought it would be best to help the octopus man first. He never got to. On his way to their fight, a voice shouted something like nonsense before Kyurubi was attacked. Exploding star, a firing explosion covered the top half of Kyurubi's body, lightly burning his GI in the process but otherwise doing no harm. Kyurubi's eyes scanned the area, looking for the fool that dared to attack him. Finally, his gaze landed on the teen with the slingshot. "You're going to pay for that, Longnose." Kyurubi rushed the long-range fighter who paled and took off toward the crowd of villagers. The fishman followed. He stopped to glance at the armed mob at the gates, but when another, weaker explosion hit him, his focus was transferred back to the long-nosed pest. Kyurubi charged after the sniper, nearing the body of the blonde he fought earlier, not noticing that he now had a new cigarette in his mouth. Sanji's hand shot out as he passed, grabbing his ankle. Kyurubi tripped from the unexpected obstacle, face-planting into the dirt road. The chef got in front of him and kicked him back into the compound with a cry of "shot." It was over with the next barrage of attacks. Collar. Sanji's right foot smashed into the spot between Kyurubi's neck and shoulder. Flank. A kick to the side rolled him onto his front lower back. The cook's heel dug into the fishman's spine, forcing his head up. Chin. A rising kick picked the large pirate into the air. Ribs. The ray fishman was launched into the building, smashing through several rooms on the ground floor. He came out the back wall, his limp form draped over the wreckage that had been part of the last wall. Sanji lit another cigarette, his third of the battle, as blood flowed freely from the wound on his head. He blew smoke. Now it's done. He won't be coming back. He puffed his cancer stick. They're all just seafood anyway. A fish couldn't fight a cook. I don't know what he was thinking. It was you that called me the ugly one, wasn't it? Chew. Chew growled, dropping into his starting position. I'll make you regret that. Chew. Yeah? You think you can deal with me? My bounty is 12 million. While yours is, what, 0? Bounties mean nothing. Fishmen are the superior race, and there is no amount of numbers will change that. Chew. That verbal tick of yours is really annoying, Jin shot back, cracking his neck with his eyes closed. Chew opened his mouth to retort, but his words died as Jin's eyes snapped open, a crazed smile stretching over his face. Jin laughed, shooting forward, with Tonfa spinning into an overhead swing with his right weapon. The first attack forced Chew to block with both forearms, allowing the human pirate to bring his weapon's twin in from the left, smashing the weight on the end into the fishman's ribs. Chew grunted in pain, but was otherwise unaffected. He smirked. You're tough, Jin admitted, the gleam in his eye brightening. That means I can beat you more. That's more fun for me. Chew's smirk fizzled at the look. Having never seen the sort of evil grin this pirate was directing at him. A lead ball nailed Chew in the forehead, disorienting the fishman. Jin's tonfa spun into his face, throwing him away. Jin stepped back, shaking his head as if he had been in a daze. Chew. Chew grumbled in annoyance. He rolled away when he heard a cry, a flame star. A small pellet hit the concrete where he had been only a second ago, bursting into a flame that died the second afterward but left a scorch mark on the ground. Wait a second. I know you. His eyes locked onto Usopp. You're the one that was shooting at our captain. Chew. Yeah, I was. The sniper declared, brimming with courage brought about by being behind a fighter like Jin, who went toe-to-toe with Sanji. What's it you? Chew jumped away, a weighted tonfa crushing the ground he'd been on. Damn it. Let me talk, Chew. Why? Jin growled. So you can keep saying Chew? No thanks. Jin spun, giving his weapons more force as he struck at his foe. Chew rolled away from the iron, dodging Usopp's attacks all the while. He ran to the water before diving into a void, a lead star. Damn. Usopp cursed. What now? Get ready to move, Jin advised. He's a fishman. We don't know what he can do in the water, but we are not going to follow Squirt Gun. Jin didn't finish, a pressurized stream of water slamming into his chest and blowing him into and through the first wall of Arlong Park's building. Jin. Usopp yelled. You're next, Longnose. Chew shouted, 1,000 shot Squirt Gun. Crap. The long-nosed teen dove to the right, just avoiding the ball of water that punched through the wall behind him like a bullet. Chew didn't stop at one, Usopp having to dodge, duck, dip, dive, and dodge until he managed to jump behind enough rubble to hold off the barrage. Fireball! He yelled as he popped up over the wall for only a moment, trying to get in, a counterattack. The coming ball of fire was too big for any small drop to stop it, forcing Chew to cut off his attack and duck below the surface. The attack hit the surface of the water, the heat causing the surface to steam. Usopp took his opportunity and ran to Jin's side where he lay in the rubble of the wall inside the building. The side of his face was covered in his own blood and there was a piece of shrapnel in his left arm. Come on, Jin, he begged. Get up. You're stronger than me. Jin moaned, rolling onto his side and coughing up a glob of blood. What am I to you? A human shield? Now's not the time for that. Usopp panicked as Chew resurfaced, cheeks full of water. Stop him. Jin called out. Exploding star. Despite the stress, Usopp's aim was true, plugging Chew's mouth with a pellet that exploded. Unfortunately, due to half of the projectile getting wet, it only blew up with half of the usual force. Chew. The fishman yelled in pain, his arms coming up to his face. Soot streaked his face and arms, and his hair was stuck blown back. Getting his bearings quickly, he bent over and starting sucking up water once more. Jin. Do something. I can't. I'm a close-range fighter and the gunpowder in my flintlock is wet. You do something. Chew started swelling, the water intake causing his body to expand. What do you want me to do? I don't know. Do you have any poisons? Something to interrupt his insides? No. Why would I? Wait. Usopp rummaged around in his bag. Got it. Smoke and pepper star combo. At first, it seemed like he had fallen short of the fishman, but the two capsules broke in the water, coloring the sea a dark gray. Too absorbed in his preparations to stop before it reached him, Chew sucked up the smoky water. His eyes bugged out comically as the spices and chemicals were pulled into his insides. He sneezed, all of the water throwing both Jin and Usopp back into the rubble in one big wave. Chew couldn't see them from the water now through the pain, but he didn't want to take chances. He filled himself with uncontaminated seawater before climbing out of the ocean, his opponents likewise pulling themselves out of the rubble of the front of Arlong Park. Jin saw him first, shoving the remains of Arlong's chair off of himself. Oh shit. 1,000-shot squirt gun. More watery bullets shot from Chew's mouth, forcing Usopp and Jin to dodge behind the same rub Usopp had used earlier, the latter trying to block some shots with his danfa. A yell attracted Jin's attention to Sanji's body ragdolling into and through the park's border wall. Usopp, Jin whispered as high-velocity water whizzed over their heads. Sanji was just hit. I think can take this one now that he's on land. Distract the big guy, got it. Exploding star. You're going to pay for that, long nose. Sanji's opponent shouted. Run. Usopp took Jin's suggestion, sprinting away at top speed with Kurubi in hot pursuit. Jin turned back to his fight, that dark smirk from earlier returning at full force. He swung at a large piece of wall, breaking it and throwing the pieces toward the thin fishman. Chew deflected the ballistic rubble with one shot of water each, but the distraction was enough to let Jin close the distance. His right weight slammed into Chew's stomach, doubling him over and making him spit up the rest of the water inside him with a hard cough, before the other smashed into the side of his face, throwing Chew to the right. Jin followed, raising both tonfa up before bringing them down on top of his foe's back. The former Krieg pirate did not let up, hitting him as hard as he could. Finally, Jin struck the back of the fishman's head, driving Chew's face into the concrete hard enough to leave an imprint. Chew didn't move. Jin stood over his bloodied opponent, not a hint of pity in his eye. Haki. Kurubi. Chew. Arlong muttered in a mixture of disappointment and disbelief from where he was sitting on a piece of debris, where Luffy had first punched him into the far wall. His eyes moved over each of his most trusted friends. To think you three would be beaten by mere humans. Dawn. Jin told Luffy in his ever-respectful manner, stepping over to his captain and giving a small bow. Arlong is alone. Would you like us to fight him? No, Luffy responded, his eyes never leaving Arlong. He's mine. The human team stepped forward as his male crewmates went to stand between the pirate captains and the people of Kokoyashi village. Despite his protests, Zoro ended up getting help from Jin as to not reopen his wounds. Usopp had taken up residence in the hole Sanji's body had made in the wall around the park. Nami Swan. Sanji yelled, his body seeming to turn into noodles at the sight of the orange-haired girl wearing Luffy's hat, said girl now standing between Jinzo and Nojiko. She had her bow staff out, but Zoro and Jin doubted that she would be able to use it with her bandaged shoulder, the town's doctor still fussing over her injury. Did you see what I did? Are you impressed with me? Do you love me yet? Shut up, Irocook, Zoro growled, pushing himself off Jin's shoulder to stand with his own power. The fight's not over yet. Luffy, Nami whispered, eyes locked on the pre-battle banter. She didn't respond to Sanji, or anyone else for that matter. "Do you know the biggest difference between you and me?" Arlong asked, standing so that he towered over the rubber teen. He still did not know of this human's power since Luffy had not fought yet, but Arlong knew that he should not underestimate this boy if he had the respect of the infamous Roronoa Zoro or the other humans powerful enough to overcome his 3 lieutenants. "The nose?" Luffy answered honestly, cracking his knuckles. "The jaw?" Luffy seemed to come to a revelation and pointed to his hand. "Webbing. Species." Arlong roared. He swiped at Luffy before throwing his head forward to bite at the other pirate. Luffy danced away as quickly as he could, jumping back from the fishman's attack. Arlong continued his assault, trying to take the teen's head off with his teeth. "Gum Gum Pistol." Luffy's arm stretched, surprising the fishman who was thrown into the far wall, again. He rose from the wreckage, pissed but undamaged. "So you ate a devil fruit?" This just got more interesting. Arlong shot forward, his webbed fist striking Luffy's face. The blow did no damage, but the force threw Luffy back, making him land on his neck in a way that would have killed him had he not eaten the gum gum fruit. Though the attack itself wasn't dangerous to his rubber body, the trench carved into the concrete as Luffy slowed was enough of a testament to the power behind it. Even with Luffy knocked away, Arlong suspected that would not be enough to keep the tenacious human down, so he took the time to prepare for a new attack. He reached into his mouth and yanked out his teeth, leaving his gums exposed. Due to his shark heritage, they completely grew back a second later. He repeated the process with the other hand, so he had 1 set of teeth in each hand and 1 in his mouth. "Tooth attack!" Arlong shouted, shooting forward. Luffy scrambled out of the way. Where Arlong's teeth hit the concrete, it cracked and splintered to leave tooth-shaped potholes. The fishman gave that no mind and attacked again and again. "Crap!" Luffy yelled, narrowly avoiding a swipe to his face. Unfortunately, Arlong was faster than he appeared, 1 pair of teeth grabbing Luffy as he tried to jump away. The teen screamed as the improvised weapons pierced his calf, dragging him down into the ground. "Luffy!" Nami's voice yelled from the crowd, the worry clear in her tone. Well, Arlong smirked, stomping on Luffy's stomach so he couldn't roll away. "If it isn't the prize of this fight. Shay ha ha ha. Get a good look, Nami. This is the future. Fishmen forever above humans. Shay ha ha ha." Luffy countered Arlong's boasts with an unannounced gum gum pistol. The fishman lost his hold on the teeth he was holding and the ones in his mouth broke. Luffy jumped to his feet, letting only a grimace show how much the holes in his leg hurt. Gum gum whip. Luffy's uninjured leg shot out, blindsiding Arlong and smashing him into the building, his broken teeth falling from his mouth. There was no movement. "Is it over?" Luffy questioned, disappointed. "Have we won?" Genzo asked into the silence. "We won't." Arlong burst from the building with a cry of rage, a crazed look in his eyes and a weapon in his hand. It was about 4 feet long with 6 triangular blades coming out of one side. "It's the saw blade," Nami gasped. Neither Luffy nor Arlong heard her as they were too focused on each other. The fishman swung the blade horizontally. Luffy jumped over it and the fishman, but Arlong expected something like that. He let Luffy land before he spun, lunging toward the human and delivering an uppercut to his jaw that rocketed Luffy to the upper level of Arlong Park. He cashed through the far left window of the highest level, the map room. Luffy found himself surrounded by paper maps. Crashes outside indicated that Arlong was coming and he wasn't taking the stairs. That didn't give Luffy much time to take in his surroundings and devise any sort of strategy. There were 2 bookcases on his right side and a desk against the wall opposite the new hole. A small basket of rolled-up papers sat beside the desk, but what caught his attention and made his blood boil was the feather pen resting on the desk, said feather stained a dark red. The fishman smashed the wall beneath the broken window and stepped through the new hole to see Luffy holding a feather pen stained with old blood. Arlong aimed the saw blade at the unmoving pirate, placing his head between 2 of the triangular blades. There's nowhere else to run, human, Arlong sneered. It's just you and me, here, in the highest level of Arlong Park. We will finish this now. What is this place? Luffy asked, undaunted by the large weapon by his throat. His hair shadowed his eyes, not meeting those of his foe. This is the room where I forced Nami to draw all of her sea charts for me, Arlong answered. He saw no reason to deny the other pirate an answer since said pirate would be dead soon. Her talents are too good for human, scum like you and yours. She belongs to me and I will use her to bring about the mighty Arlong Empire. I don't care what you say. Luffy retorted. Because Nami is my navigator. You want her to navigate for your piece of shit pirate crew? What a monumental waste of her potential. She will continue to draw sea charts for me. Luffy reached up and grabbed the blade before him as his other hand set the pen down. Arlong tried to move his weapon, but for some reason it wouldn't budge. Luffy squeezed, shattering the sharpened triangle in his grip. No! Arlong yelled in disbelief. That weapon he'd been with him even back in his days with Fisher Tiger and the Sun Pirates. How could a mere human child break it with only his bare hands? Use her? Luffy growled. Use her? You bastard. What do you take her for? Arlong tried to play off his nervous laugh as confidence. She's an inferior creature, but she has risen far above her peers. If you are all sewer rats, she's a feisty little kitten. After all, she is adorable. Luffy couldn't help but to agree, but no one needed to know that, so he kept quiet. She has her place, and it's next to me. So Nami will forever be my tool. Shay ha ha, shay ha ha ha. A desk flew by Arlong's head, smashing through what was left of the outer wall and scattering its contents to the wind. Both bookcases, one broken in half, followed. What do you think you're doing? The fishman shouted. Luffy didn't respond as he kicked the desk's bench where Nami had spent many hours drawing, forcing Arlong to duck and sending it out of the hole as well. The falling furniture outside brought memories back to the navigator in question, but that did not impact the fight. Stop it now! Arlong yelled, swinging at the teen with the remainder of his weapon. Luffy hopped out of the way, leaving a stack of sea charts to be cleaved in half by the broken blade. My charts! Much to Arlong's shock, Luffy kicked the cut charts, making them float away in the wind. Arlong grabbed the neck of the younger pirate as he bounced past to wreck more of the room, slamming his head into the wall. Luffy tried to gasp through the hold, his hands clutching at Arlong's webbed fingers around his neck. Damn you, you human boy! Arlong cursed, his pupils shrinking in rage. That was 8 years of work, 8 years of planning and preparation, wasted. Luffy flailed his legs, breaking more of the room as they randomly stretched. To stop him, Arlong went to bite down on his neck and sever his jugular, but Luffy knew that a bite to the neck would kill him. He reached forward and grabbed Arlong's nose. The serrated sides bit into his fingers, but Luffy didn't care for his own pain. With a sharp twist, the proud nose of Arlong broke. I get it now, Luffy muttered as the fishman cried out in pain, backing away to clutch at his twisted nose. This isn't Nami's room. It's her jail cell and the only way for her to be free is to destroy it. Luffy threw his right leg through the ceiling and brought it down before Arlong could react. Gum Gum Battle Axe. Luffy's voice echoed over the island as his sandaled foot came down on the tyrannical fishman, driving him into and through the floor. Every floor below the Shark Man was crushed by the force. At the bottom lay Arlong, beaten and broken. The structural damage was too much for the building. Cracks formed and widened. Walls came apart. A massive dust cloud grew from the falling rubble as the building fell in on itself. Arlong Park had fallen. The people celebrated. Men kissed their wives, children played, voices sang ... Luffy? Nami asked, worry-lacing her voice as the rubber pirate did not emerge from the wreckage. She shuffled forward a few steps. Luffy? Luffy? Nami was the first one to move, the rest of the crew following her as she ran to the destroyed building. Being the first to arrive, Nami grabbed the first stone she could lift and threw it behind her, hitting Usopp in the face. She didn't care, of course. All of her thoughts were focused on finding Luffy and making sure he was okay. Luffy. Dawn. The guys of the crew fanned out, the rest of the village's populace joining the pirates in their excavation efforts. The minute they searched felt like hours, the terror of never finding their savior mounting, until Nami finally managed to shift a large chunk of roof to reveal the red cardigan Luffy wore. Luffy. Nami grabbed the shirt and pulled, ignoring the pain from her bandaged arm. As Luffy's body usually did, his limbs stretched from where they were still trapped under the rubble. Usopp reached Nami's side in a moment, also grabbing a part of their captain. Jin came next, followed by Zoro, Sanji, Genzo, and Nojiko. Between the 7 of them, Luffy came out easily. "Oh hey," he smiled, looking up at his crew. "I'm alive." "That's nice. You idiot," Nami cried, wrapping Luffy in a hug. Tears rolled down her cheeks and soaked into the rubberman's shoulder, the navigator squeezing him for all he was worth as 8 years of pain and suffering were released in moments. "I was so worried. I thought you were gone." "I don't know, I'm fine, Nami," Luffy interrupted, placing a hand on her shoulder. "You asked me to help you, and that's what I did. Arlong said you were his tool, but he was wrong. You're my friend, and I'll do anything for my friends. Thank you." Before Nami knew what she was doing, on her knees holding the blooded form of the pirate who had saved her village, she kissed him. Behind her, Sanji grasped his heart, his skin rapidly paling. If one listened really closely, they could hear the sound of shattering glass. Nami backed off after several seconds, a scarlet blush over her cheeks. She handed Luffy's hat back to him, unable to look him in the eye. Luffy didn't know why, had never really explained, but he felt really happy when their lips had touched. He leaned in and captured her lips once more. Nami's eyes widened. Is this what she wanted? Her thoughts seemed to make the world slow down and shrink until it was just her and Luffy, his lips on hers. She'd never done anything like this before, and was Luffy, one of the biggest morons she'd ever met, really the one she wanted in any way? Well, he did save her village. And her. And Usopp's village. And the Barati. And Luffy was going to be the king of the pirates. With that thought, Nami melted into the kiss, and wrapped her arms around him. Luffy was going to become the king, which would make him both royalty and very, very wealthy. Nami supposed she could get used to that, even if it took a while to get there. Knowing Luffy, she'll probably fall hard for him along the way. Harder than she might have already. You straw hat bastard. Get your rubbery hands off of my na. Jin sighed and whacked Sanji in the back of the head with a tonfa, knocking the chef unconscious and putting out the fire in his visible eye. Hold it right there. A new voice yelled. The moment was shattered. From the road came Marine Captain Nezumi and his contingent of lackeys, his right arm in a sling. What a lucky day for me. I saw everything, and I must say, I'm very surprised. I never thought Arlong would be beaten by a bunch of upstarts, but it doesn't matter. All of the credit will go to Captain Nezumi of Marine Branch 16. Chi-chi-chi. Rubble crunched under Zoro's boot, the swordsman, silently approaching the Marine. You're the one that shot my apprentice, he growled, cracking his knuckles. You're gonna pay for that. A moment later, Nezumi and his men laid on the ground, bleeding and covered in bruises. I'll get you, he mumbled through his cracked teeth and busted lip. Luffy's your cop, right? This'll have serious consequences. We'll take our chances, Zoro told him. Nami unwrapped herself from Luffy's arms and walked up to the injured rat. This is for taking my money and destroying Belimir's tangerines, she shouted, bringing her bow down on the beaten man. And give me back my money, I promise. I promise. The girl kicked him into the water where he swam away. Usopp, she ordered, Scruffy. Find their ship. I don't want them leaving without giving us that money. We'll need it for supplies after we've set out. Right. The two took off, Jin complaining about being called scruffy. The entire island partied for several hours, Usopp and Sanji making fools of themselves and Luffy stuffing his face the entire time. Jin had already won 2 drinking competitions and was in a third. Zoro, Johnny, Yosaku, and Coby were in the doctor's office, recovering. Zoro was getting his stitches fixed when Luffy popped in, sticking his head through the window. "Hey, have you guys seen Nami anywhere?" he asked, a piece of meat on the bone in his hand. "Why?" Zoro smirked through the pain. "You looking for your new girlfriend?" "Girlfriend?" Coby yelled in surprise. "Yeah," Luffy answered without pause. "Well," Genzo started, "if she's not in the village, there's only one place she could be. I wouldn't disturb her." "Well, alright. Thanks." "What girlfriend?" Coby shouted. What did I miss? It was the 3rd straight day of partying. All of the swordsmen had been released the previous day and were out enjoying themselves with everyone else. Luffy had wandered out of the village in search of a raw ham melon, an entire watermelon covered in swaths of ham and entirely wrapped in bacon. He'd ended up on a hill overlooking the ocean. Before him sat Genzo, a cross placed in the ground before him. Luffy was silent. Now that he was dating Nami, Sanji and, surprising, Coby, had pounded at least some proper etiquette into him through the partying. He'd learned that Genzo was the closest thing Nami had had to a father figure. He turned to leave, not wanting to disturb the man at the grave. "Wait there a second," Genzo ordered. He stood and turned, facing the pirate. "You know Nami has decided to join you on your adventure, correct?" "Yeah." "Then listen well. If I hear that anyone on your ship, you in particular, make Nami cry, I will track you down and kill you myself. Is that understood?" "Absolutely." Luffy gave him one of his wide grins. "Nami's my navigator, my nakama, my girlfriend. I'd rather die than make her cry." "Well, you better not. She'd cry if you went and died on her. Trust me. I can't die until I've become the Pirate King with Nami as my queen." Luffy didn't wait for a response. He turned and headed back to the village. Genzo smiled slightly as the pirate wandered away. Luffy had this fire inside him. He just knew that the boy wouldn't go anywhere without his friends and that they would help him reach his dream. The Mary had been stocked with everything the group would need until they reached the Grand Line. Arlong Park had been pillaged by the people and everything of value taken to help rebuild the towns of the island. Zoro had gone back and stolen 4 swords, 2 as temporary replacements for himself and 2 for Coby in case they were unable to get anything better. To remember her adopted mother, Nami had asked Luffy if she could take some tangerine trees with them. He had readily given her what she wanted, him, Sanji, and a slightly forced Jin doing most of the heavy lifting. Zoro had taken Coby into the forest to do some light training to make sure both of them were good as new, even if Zoro now had a scar from Hawkeye's last attack and Coby 3 scars from Nezumi's men shooting him. Now, every resident of Kokoyashi village but one was on the docks to wave goodbye to the Straw Hat Pirates. The villagers were getting annoyed, however. Where was Nami? Set sail. They heard the woman of their thoughts yell. She was standing 200 feet away, proudly displaying her new tattoo that had replaced Arlong's mark, a tangerine on a pinwheel. "You heard her," Luffy called. "Let's go. She's gonna leave without letting us thank her." One villager realized.